Okay, welcome back to another live stream. Shout out to the Urbans for tuning in. And of course, today we're in for a treat. We're talking about, Dior buying bags for $57 and selling them for $2,800. There's so much to talk about. Initially, I actually wasn't going to talk about this topic because I felt like so many people have covered it already, and I felt like I half covered it, but so many people hounded me on Twitter and Instagram, especially saying, you need to cover this. Your next live stream needs to be on this topic. So I was like, okay, I'm a man of the people. So I'll cover this topic, but kind of to bring people up to speed, if you're not familiar with what has been going on, I recently did a live stream that was basically about how a lot of brands, including Armani and Dior, has been exploiting workers. So a big report came out. I was reading it on the Business of Fashion, and essentially what this report was saying was that a lot of the factories that luxury brands like Dior and Armani use are actually under investigation for exploitation. Um, some of them in Italy, actually. A lot of the factories are in Italy. Some of them are using like slave labor in the sense that they're using illegal immigrants and paying them less than minimum wage because they're kind of undocumented workers. Then, of course, reports came out later that actually these brands aren't culpable for what has been going on, and who is actually being prosecuted is the factories themselves, because the brands have kind of legally separated themselves from the factories as entities because they use them as like third party producers. So they're not liable for any of that. So I kind of did a whole live stream on that. Shortly after, another report came out as part of this investigation in these brands and kind of what goes on behind the scenes. Then a report came out that Dior were producing bags for $57 and then selling them for $2,800. And that is essentially kind of like the big news that everyone has been talking about. I'm honestly really happy because on Patreon, now on YouTube channel memberships, on my channel too, all I've been talking about for damn near the past year is the fact that we're seeing like a death of luxury fashion. It's kind of not worth it. And I think what really annoys me the most about luxury fashion these days is not really the price, or not that they're hiking prices, because I think with luxury clothing, luxury goods in general, there's a sense that, part of what you're paying for is the name. So you kind of have an understanding that part of what you're paying for is the name. But what really pisses me off is they are hiking prices while simultaneously the quality is going down, while simultaneously they're exploiting more workers, while simultaneously they've gone from, using well-regulated factories and paying people livable wages to not doing that. And so that's what really annoys me about it. It's almost like every single thing that they market as luxury has kind of fizzled out over time. It's like, oh, we use these amazing factories, savoir-faire. No, you don't. You outsource factories that are third-party factories that are exploiting workers. And then when you get investigated for it, you're like, oh, well, that's a third-party vendor. We couldn't be sure of how things are being produced. Or, the craftsmanship. If you guys see craftsmanship of, luxury goods these days versus years ago, you'd see that there's a massive difference. What else are they? Quality, we both know the quality. All of us basically know the quality is going down. I did a recent video on Chanel flat bags, when the CEO said that the prices are going up because there's an increase in craftsmanship, which is absolutely hilarious, knowing fully well that, they used to plate the hardware with 24 karat gold, and now it's like barely brass. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. Even, I just think they're marketing, and this is something I've said on Patreon in videos, that they're marketing sort of past realities of the brand. So they're marketing the fact that brands did certain things in the past that they don't do now. And for some reason, like, a lot of consumers don't really understand that. Because every time I make a video critiquing luxury brands, there's always that one person that's like, yeah, but you don't know, they use these specialized machines to make those bags. And I'm like, specialized machines? Dana Thomas wrote a book in 2007 that clearly she had so much proof in that book, How Luxury Lost Its Luster, where she literally interviews people that work in these factories, and they say how it's like an assembly line, and they very clearly describe, and the people on Patreon will know this, very clearly describe how these things are being made. And that was in 2007. And in 2024, they're cutting even more corners. So it's only going to get worse. So it's quite funny when people come to the defense of brands. I think also maybe sometimes people forget that I actually worked in the industry in so many different capacities. So I do know how things are produced. Like I have a very strong sense of how things are produced. And also, if we talk about, the price of how much it costs to produce a lot of these things. I say this all the time, I'll say it again, that when you're a massive brand like Dior, when you're a brand that's under a massive conglomerate like LVMH, with all the power that LVMH has, you have economies of scale. And what that means is that me being an irrelevant singular person, if I wanted to start a brand and I went to some random factory and I was like, how much does it cost to make a basic t-shirt? Because I'm only ordering 100 and they don't know who I am and they don't believe in me, they might tell me it's £100 each to create a t-shirt. Now, if you're Dior, because of the numbers you're going to produce, because it's such a big client and factories want to work with Dior, it helps their portfolio, blah, blah, blah. Dior can literally negotiate. So what I'm paying £100 to produce, Dior can literally pay 20 because of economies of scale and what the factory is getting out of it, and the fact that they want to keep Dior and LVMH as a client, because they know if Dior comes in and we have a good relationship with Dior, other brands under the LVMH stable might come and start using our factory. So that like there's even more of a reason why their profit margins are insane, because they have economies of scale. And some of these brands, they're vertically integrated. So with some of these brands, they own their own factories. Like Louis Vuitton is a big example of this. They own their own factories. They own the whole production process from top to bottom, which makes it cheaper when you own every stage of the process. So yeah, I've never really understood why people just blindly protect these brands and act like all this stuff is really expensive to make. Like it isn't. This is not Bottega using insane techniques to create things, or a couture collection. It's like a bag, a leather bag that they have a standardized pattern for, and they can just like reproduce it in like an assembly line sense. Let me see what people are saying. Alonso says, you're right, there's nothing special about it. The whole ethos is to create status and sell a personality for an illiterate sector of privileged people. I totally agree. I only buy Comme des Garçons and Yamamoto. I'm good. I mean, some of Yoji's stuff had quality issues, but I haven't seen a lot of the new season stuff, but there was a time when it had quality issues. But the good thing about Yoji is that Yoji makes silhouettes that like you can't find in many other brands. Whereas like Dior doesn't do that, or Louis Vuitton doesn't do that. So Louis Vuitton stuff is less special, or Dior stuff is less special, because there's nothing that unique about Dior clothing that goes on the runway, or Louis Vuitton clothing that goes on the runway. Specialized machines, more for machines. Increase in craftsmanship, still the same process to make the bag. Exactly facts. Exactly facts. I originally found out that in 1973, women's Chanel shoes were sold for $36. Of course, yes, $36 sounds like a small amount of money, but you can imagine, like, with inflation and stuff, $36 could be the equivalent of maybe like $300, $400, $500 now. So that's about right. So it makes sense, to be honest. Having just returned from Rome and Venice, Italy, I saw fake Dior bags and others being sold on the streets openly. Guess they fell off the truck. And exactly what Leo is saying here, you're paying more for advertising and marketing expenses than production. 100%. People who buy today's luxury fashion seem like people with no style. I wouldn't say that. I just think that it's not worth it. But at the end of the day, if you want to buy that, buy that. There's a lot of things that I buy that aren't worth it. I buy fragrances that are way overpriced, and I know they're overpriced, but I just buy them because I love fragrances. So I wouldn't necessarily shame someone for buying into luxury fashion, but I think that the blind defending of luxury brands is what I don't agree with. Is this whole thing of but luxury brands are using these specialized things. And what do you know about luxury? It's crafted perfectly. And it's like, I literally worked for a company that was one of the biggest fabric suppliers in the whole of Europe. I know how the industry works. Like, I know how it works. I don't know why you're blindly defending these brands. Um, but what we can do quickly is read one of the articles, like from the New York Post, that kind of just talks about, what was going on and kind of what happened. So it says Dior Armani's pricey handbags made by migrant workers who make $2 an hour costs $57 to make. So it says luxury goods makers behind iconic brands including Dior and Armani hired contractors that pay workers as little as $2 an hour to make handbags that they then sell for thousands of dollars a piece, according to European law enforcement officials. Dior, the French multinational luxury fashion house, chaired by mogul Bernard Arnault and his family, charges a supplier around $57 to manufacture a handbag that it sells in stores for around 2,780, according to the Wall Street Journal. Now, just going to pause there quickly because a lot of people are asking, what is the $57? What is that for? Like, what's that the cost of? Is that the cost of just to make? Is that the cost of the fabric? And to be honest, from all the articles I read, and I've read so many different articles on it, it's not very clear. So it could be one of two things. It could be they're supplying these factories with all the fabrics and then it costs 57 per bag to assemble, or it could just be $57 like all in. um I can imagine that it's probably $57 all in, because I know how those kind of like canvas Dior bags cost to make in my head. Like if you were to go to a factory, and with Dior's economies of scale and the fact that they're using factories that pay workers less than minimum wage, I can see how it would be $57 all in, to be honest. Um, Someone is saying $57 is not materials, just labor. I find it hard to believe, but if that's the case, then yes. Okay, according to Business Insider article. Okay, so that's the thing. If they said that in the Business Insider article, then fair enough. But I can imagine that it's not that far off. So even if you add the fabrics, it might just be $100 each to make with fabrics included. Because this is also something that we've covered on Patreon, and we've talked about this with what Dana Thomas said in How Luxury Lost Its Luster. So in the book, there's a chapter where Dana Thomas talks about how brands are in this constant search of improving profits. So she takes it from a journey of how clothing was produced, where it was produced, what kind of factories. She interviews a lot of the factory makers that used to produce a lot of these clothes, and them basically complaining that luxury brands don't appreciate their craftsmanship anymore because they're only looking to increase their profit margins. So they've all outsourced now to factories in China, and they're outsourcing to factories in the same country that have very dicey regulations on things. And then later on in the chapter, Dana Thomas predicts that in the future, and remember, this book was published in 2007, so obviously she was right. It was the right prediction to make, because in 2024, this is happening now. But a lot of stuff was made in places like in China. A lot of stuff was made in Hong Kong before, but Hong Kong even got too expensive, so they started making more of that stuff to China. A lot of the fashion businessmen in Hong Kong actually became businessmen in China. And then stuff got too expensive for these brands to produce in China. So they started seeking even lower labor markets, like lower cost labor markets. So that's how you see these brands producing in places like Cambodia, places like Vietnam. That was actually to improve profit margins, because China started to become too expensive, or Chinese labor started to become too expensive, and they couldn't exploit it as much as they wanted to. So they had to go into labor markets where obviously the labor is cheaper, but also they can, fiddle with the laws a bit more, and there's more gray area with the legality of the whole thing. So that's why, once again, even though it might be $57 to make, to assemble, I don't think the fabrics are far off, to be honest. And all that stuff, like I've said, you can watch my fashion book club episodes on Patreon. If you don't want to subscribe to my Patreon, because this is not a channel I'm like, oh my god, you have to subscribe to my Patreon. Like, just buy the book. I would definitely suggest buy How Luxury Lost Its Luster by Dana Thomas. It's one of the most relevant books when it comes to luxury fashion, even though it was published in 2007. All her predictions were right if you look at what's going on right now. And stories like this wouldn't surprise you if you've read that book, and also if you've kind of listened to things that I've said in terms of like my experience working in the industry, things I've seen, and all those kind of things. Trauma Queen says, I wish they would go back to making a small quantity and make it slow and real luxury, but greed. I know. Greed is the bane of the whole fashion industry. It really is. It really is. 28 hours to make a bag. If labor costs 57 USD total and 2 USD per hour, now to be more accurate, we should think about other costs like electricity. Interesting. Be warned, chat, you must pay for his Patreon. Yeah, this is also a good thing. Your local library might have the book. So even if, let's say, you can't buy it, see if there's a library close to you that has the book. It's honestly like, if you love fashion and you're really getting into fashion, you want to understand how the luxury industry works and kind of how it's changed over time. How Luxury Lost Its Luster is such a good book. It's so good. Culture says all these shenanigans have always been growing. So many folks straight up laud these exploitative moves and repercussions. It's insane. I know people that literally praise it. They're like, how are you going to be a strong businessman if like you're not making profits and all that sort of stuff? And it's like, you can make profits without being that exploitative. It's just that you're not going to be maybe a $20 billion brand, but you'll still make profits. AZ says, now we all understand why Kanye was screaming about the importance of manufacturing. Once you have the means of production on lock, you can basically write your own ticket. That's facts. That is facts. Definitely true. Fashion industry moves like the illegal drugs industry. Wouldn't it surprise me if a lot of brands have a monopoly on certain factories, which then limits a startup's ability to make things and beat them? Oh, so it's funny you actually brought this up. So from my experience in the industry, yes, there are some brands that have monopolies on certain things. Oh my God, let me tell you certain things that happens in the industry now that we're talking about like what happens behind the scenes and stuff. So it's very hard to like copyright or trademark fashion, right? Because it's very much like, how do you trademark that? How do you copyright that? Who owns what? How do you determine that this style of trouser is like identifiably yours, because so many people would have made something that looks similar? So it's almost impossible to trademark things unless it's like a logo, which is very easy to trademark, like, or a signifier of your brand, like 3 stripes for Adidas, a Nike tick, those kind of things. But even though legally you can't trademark a lot of things, what a lot of these massive brands do is they will have a certain design or a certain type of fabric or a certain style of fabric, or even sometimes even certain colors, where they make it known to a lot of big factories that no one else is allowed to produce this factory. And if you let any other brand produce anything remotely similar with your factory, we will like blacklist your factory and we'll never work with your factory. And we'll make sure that every other brand related to, our company doesn't work with your factory. And we'll also make sure that, other related brands don't work with your factory. So that's kind of the way that they regulate these things, even though there's no like legality to it. They just kind of use their power and just like bully the whole industry in not making things that are similar. So that's like one insane thing that happens behind the scenes. And you're like, I'm just trying to make a red jacket. And they're like, no. They're just like, nope. It's like, nah. Making a profit is not enough in business now. It's considered a failure to not grow more than you did the year before, which is psychotic. It's 100% psychotic. It's what, I find really disgusting about the whole luxury fashion industry. It's this, we have to have year-on-year growth, quarter-on-quarter growth, all that sort of stuff. It's just so just, the greed is just way too much. Yeah, the greed is just way too much. And I guess it comes down to the intentions of the brands, right? And I talked about this in my video. I think it was titled why luxury is a waste of money or something like that. And basically the main point I was making in that video, and I did reference how luxury lost its luster, is this point of how luxury fashion has changed. So you have couturiers who their main motivation was to be the best couturier, like the Christian Dior's and Chris Balenciagas and the Coco Chanel's, the Elsa Schiaparelli's. They all made things that were quite unique and quite original for the time. Christian Dior less so, because what Christian Dior did, like with the new look, Cristobal Balenciaga had kind of already done that. I've like done so much research on Balenciaga's work. Like he's done that new look style before the 1940s. However, they were all about craft, and their customers were upper society, like royals and like serious upper class, like lords and all that sort of stuff, who were expecting a certain level of quality. And so that was their customer base. And a lot of these couturiers they had a lot of money, but they weren't super rich. Like they weren't as rich as you would think they were, because they weren't business savvy, most of them, apart from maybe Coco Chanel. So a lot of them just used to sell ultra expensive clothing to really, really rich patrons, and that was about it. Then over time, when the businessmen started to get involved, they started to license the rights to produce a lot of these things in different countries. Like a good example is when Diana Vreeland was at Harper's Bazaar, she loved Chanel. She was a Chanel stan. And so what Diana Vreeland would do is she would write about ways to style Chanel in Harper's Bazaar. And because a lot of people in New York didn't really have access to a lot of the Chanel pieces, Chanel actually realized that, it would be really good if I could license out my name to different people in New York, where I could kind of show them how to make these clothes, and then people have access to it in New York. And then other brands started doing the same thing. You had Dior doing it, so many couturiers were doing it, and then that was kind of the start of stuff being watered down, because now you have clothing that isn't directly going through the atelier of these couturiers. And then we started to get big business moguls. That's when you start to get the Bernard Arnaults, who then turns it into just a profit-making business. And Bernard Arnault wasn't even concerned really about the craft or anything. He was just more interested in how these couturiers were able to convince people to buy things that are so expensive because of a craft and a history of craft and a history of design skill and all those things. And he was thinking about how he could package all of that understanding of what these brands stand for to make t-shirts and to make hoodies and to make sneakers and to do all those things, and just to make crazy profits. So that was kind of how fashion transitioned away from it just being about design and craft and all those kind of things, to it just being about how are we going to make the maximum money physically possible. Right, says, I don't know how Bernard can sleep well at night. He sleeps well in his $1 billion and his 50 million mansions and all that sort of stuff. I can't wait until someone uncovers how much it costs to make a Telfar bag or Molola puff trucker cap. Social media will explode. I mean, all of us have an understanding that the Molola trucker caps are literally trucker caps are really cheap to make, because everyone just makes the same trucker caps and then they just embroider their logo on the front bit here. So they must be insanely cheap to make. So yeah. But at least Molola is not charging $2,000 for a trucker cap though. So Molola gets the pass. You says, in Dana Thomas's other book about McQueen and Galliano, that's Gods and Kings. Arnault's son was quoted saying, if they want to be creative, they can go be artists. I remember that, because if you want to be a fashion designer, this is about big business. If you want to be creative, go and be an artist and leave my brand. Oh my God, that's funny. It's also a good point to say that, Telfar bags are not nearly as expensive as Dior and Armani. They're cheap to make though, yeah, facts. But anyway, let's continue. I feel like I went on a tangent. Let's continue reading the article. It says, Armani, the Milan-based designer, paid $270 to a supplier to make handbags that were then sold on the retail market for just under $2,000, according to the journal. It's quite funny because, once again, talking about fabric, like the fabrics used to make these like Christian Dior like tote bags, they're not that crazy. It's not leather. It's like a canvas. It's like some sort of like cotton canvas type fabric. It's not even anything that's special or anything that's super expensive either. Um, so yeah, even that argument that people are making that, the fabrics are so expensive, that's why it costs so much, because I have to convince myself that I spent $2,000 and it's totally worth it. So anything you say is not valid. Um, it's quite funny, to be fair. Let's see what else is said. Italian authorities obtained the figures after police conducted a series of raids on workshops and makeshift factories that employed illegal immigrants and others off the book, the journal reported. Prosecutors in Milan accused the companies of hiring subcontractors that employ Chinese migrants and other foreign workers who are paid as little as between $2 and $3 an hour. The workers often sleep in the workshops and are made to work from dusk until dawn, including on holidays and weekends, it was alleged. Last month, Italian judges ordered a subsidiary of Dior, Armani, and Alvaro Martina Spa, another luxury fashion maker known for matte print bags and other items, to be placed under court administration after ruling that their manufacturing units mistreated migrant workers. This is so funny. They always do this thing where it's like the Post has sought to comment, like they're ever going to comment about these things. I don't know why they do that. I think it just adds a pizzazz to the article where it's like, we asked them for a comment and there was no comment, so they're guilty because they don't want to say anything. I think that's why they kind of ask for comments, knowing fully well that a brand's not going to be like, let's tell you about how we exploit migrant workers. Let's have an amazing interview about that. I can never look at that bag the same. It's so cheap looking to me now. Oh my god, Duke says people who have that Dior tote bag is a red flag, even before this controversy. Who do we credit for the design of that Dior bag anyways? Kim Jones, because they're doing numbers on the streets. Mums love that bag, man. My mum has a couple of Fugazi ones. You know what? I don't actually know. Guys in the chat, who was the first designer to make this bag? Like, who was it? Who made this thing? I don't actually know, I've just known Christian Dior to make these kind of tote bags for a really long time, but I can't even remember what designer actually made these tote bags for Dior. I can't imagine it's like any of the earlier designers, the purist ones, like Gianfranco or like Yves Saint Laurent. Obviously not. So it has to be like one of the modern designers. But I don't think that John Galliano would design something like that. So I think it would have to start from like Kim Jones, or like it have to be more recent. I don't buy designer. I'm just here for the bants, here for the entertainment. I know people who literally make fun of me when I explain to them that their luxury clothes are actually cheap to produce. Yeah, I've explained this before. I think what it is that a lot of people don't actually know a lot of these things, because unfortunately, a lot of conversations that people have around fashion are really surface level on most of the internet, on most corners of the internet, in most of the world. So people also don't really know what goes on in fashion. Obviously, in my case, I'm like a fashion journalist. I studied fashion at fashion school. I've worked in the industry. So I guess I have a very strong insight of what goes on behind the scenes, but most people don't. So most consumers genuinely, because of how it's marketed, they genuinely think that they're buying something that's like expertly crafted and all this sort of stuff. So you kind of burst their bubble when you tell them that it's cheap to produce and actually like you're just paying for the name. And so they have to validate in their head why they've spent so much money on that clothing. And so because they kind of force themselves into doing that, that's why they'll always disagree with you, because they don't want to feel stupid, or they don't want to feel like they've been scammed or they've been cheated out of their money. So that's why they're always going to fight you when you're like, yeah, your stuff is like cheaply made. They're not going to like that. They're not going to like that at all. Does anyone actually know who designed this bag, by the way? We need to get to the bottom of this. What designer at Dior designed this bag? The unfortunate thing is, an African artist I love has been commissioned to design Lady Dior bags. Genuine questions, but about the actual value they come up with. Does that include fair wages for workers at fabric manufacturers? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I'll just leave it there. Same with sneakerheads. Yeah, sneakerheads are the same. They get bumped by like Nike and stuff. And Nike, the same exact shoe, and they add a couple touches of embroidery and they double the price. Ah, gosh. I love fashion so much. It's hilarious. People are saying it was Maria Grazia-Chiuri. Was it actually MGC that designed these tote bags? Was it? Okay, MGC in 2018, drawing from Mark Bohan in 1967. Okay, interesting. Because I feel like I've been seeing these tote bags for forever. But if they were only made in 2018, that's insane. I must have seen them so much because it feels like they've been around for a lot longer than since 2018, to be honest. Um, so yeah, actually gets paid well slash fairly in the fashion industry. Creative directors Anna Wintour, it's mad. So the messed up thing about the fashion industry is like there's a big gap in wages. So it's either like you're a staff writer at a magazine making close to minimum wage, struggling to get by, or you're like a stylist assistant, basically like almost close to unpaid, like only expenses and food paid for, or you're like, different aspects of the industry, right? It's either you're that or you're editor in chief making six figures, or you're Anna Wintour literally making millions, or you're one of the top stylists in fashion making millions, like styling every big celebrity, like I don't know, like a Law Roach or that sort of thing. But there's no middle. It's either you're like completely broke or you're completely rich. I guess the people in the middle are people like me, maybe like independent journalists that also you're kind of like a half content creator, half influencer, half journalist. Then you're kind of in the middle somewhere. But most like wage jobs, like when you work in the industry, you're just either poor or you're making really good money, which is really sad. Unless you work in like that's if you're on the creative side of fashion. If you work in like finance or the law side of fashion, like you're on the legal team for a big luxury conglomerate or you're on the marketing team, then no, the wages are fair. So I think it just depends on what sector of fashion you're in. But the creative side, yeah, people get exploited all the time. It's insane. I got the Anna bag. I wish. I wish, I wish, I wish. I absolutely wish. Someone said, I'm pretty sure LV does sweatshop labor. Oof, no comment. No comment, no comment. Question is, who can afford these overpriced products? Luxury brands make more than fast fashion, it seems. Yeah, so there's definitely people that can afford it. The market is definitely there. I mean, geez, like I've working in fashion, it almost makes you like pissed off, especially if you're not from a rich background, because it's almost disgusting how exploitative the industry is, and then you go to an event where they spend 1 million on some like pointless, useless event that the brand has thrown, where not even that many people go to the event, and it's like unlimited bar, like almost every fashion event is like unlimited bar and like not like really expensive drinks. Um, and then you can't even pay workers a livable wage, but you can be out here doing unlimited retops of Moe. Like it's just a bit crazy to me. It's just a bit mad. And while they're making 2K per person, I'm online looking for a home. It would be cheaper without any loss of life to maintain a work studio in Chicago and home in Mexico. What about all of the unsold luxury goods? So there was a scandal that came out. Let me see if I can show you guys on the screen since we've got Google. Um, since we've got Google up. So yeah, there was this thing here where this was in 2018. This was an article that came out in 2018 where there was evidence of Burberry burning bags and clothes and destroying perfume that was worth millions. And the reason is because obviously they want to protect their brand image. So yeah, there was all this stuff like okay, so the total value of goods Burberry destroyed over the past 5 years, so that was from 2013 to 2018 was worth 90 million pounds, which is insane. And they destroyed 28.6 million pounds worth of product in 2017 to protect its brand. So that's exactly what happens to the unsold goods of these luxury brands. They just destroy it. And even though Burberry said, "Oh, we're not going to destroy it anymore. We're going to use it." That's all bullshit. I don't trust any of these brands. I've worked in the industry for too long, and I have too much evidence of different things to not believe anything they say. So I do definitely believe that most brands still destroy most of their stuff. To be honest, they're just more careful with how they do it, so that articles like this don't come out where they're being exposed for this sort of stuff. So yeah, let me just leave this on the screen because yeah, this is exactly what happens to the stuff that isn't sold. So I need to go to more fashion parties, mate. Get your money's worth. I'm gonna leave here with something. The working class will save up for one or two. The middle class will save a bit and buy a few. Upper will buy and collect pieces, and the rich will buy it because it's cheap to them. Oh, you're talking about like the people that buy this stuff. Yeah, I think it's also because I buy things that are luxury prices, but I guess you just save up. Like there's a Rick Owens jacket I want, and it's really expensive, and I'm just going to save up for a year and then buy it. So I think everyone, I guess, if you're interested in that sort of stuff, then buy it. To be fair, there's people at all different sides of the totem pole that buy luxury fashion. Even people that can't afford it, they're using things like their credit cards and Klarna, and there's a big conversation to be had around how a lot of these luxury brands are putting people into like really bad financial situations. Who's that guy on YouTube? Is it Caleb Hammer or something like that, where he's always screaming and shouting at people like, "Oh my god, start the coffee." But sometimes on his show, like you'll be watching the videos and then you'll see that someone is in a bad financial situation and they're buying luxury clothes that they don't need. So there must be something strong about the marketing of these luxury brands that sort of convinces people that they need stuff that they really don't need. So yeah, it's insane. Everything in fashion has gone to fast fashion, even the word boutique. I don't need to see any more boutique of cheap stripper gear for the winter. And that's why, in my opinion, and that's kind of why I posed the question in the title of this live stream, is luxury fashion the new fast fashion? Because it seems more so than ever that luxury brands are operating like fast fashion brands. And that was also one of the big predictions that Dana Thomas made. In how luxury lost its luster, that you would see less and less of a difference, and it'll be very hard to differentiate between fast fashion and luxury brands, other than like the name. But in terms of quality, in terms of construction, in terms of even the factories they're made in, you almost won't be able to differentiate very soon. And we're slowly even getting to that point. In some regard, we're actually already there, to be fair, in the way that they operate, like the waste, destroying goods, using the same factories, the lack of craftsmanship, the cutting corners. It's all there. It's all there. Coach and their greenwashing, slashing bags and throwing them away. And then they have this like sustainable collection, this like side sustainable collection where they make it's kind of like these brands, they make me laugh. It's like Burberry will have this like sustainable collection where, you know, they have these like 1,000 one-off pieces where they use scrap fabrics and then the rest of the fabrics get destroyed. But they kind of convince you that they're no longer destroying things because they made two bags that they use that they made from scrap fabrics. It's so funny. It's honestly so funny. Also, having grown up in the 80s, somewhere along the line, it became commonplace to sell sneakers made of plastic. Damn. Damn. The sad thing is the quality people are getting for racks and racks is the same as high street clothes from 15 years ago. That's facts. That's facts. You know, like a designer like Bibba, for example, her clothing. I went to an exhibition in London about Bibba's work not too long ago, and obviously Bibba was a designer that, you know, she was around the time of Mary Quant, and she felt that Mary Quant, as good as Mary Quant's clothing was, as much as Mary Quant was able to capture the zeitgeist in the 60s, the swinging 60s, all of that, the Beatles, blah, 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 mini skirts. Bibba felt like the problem with Mary Quant was that she was channeling the youth quake in the 60s in her work, but then it wasn't really accessible to young people because it was so expensive. So Bibba wanted to create clothing that, channeled the same youth quake and the same youth energy from the 60s and, times after that, well designed, expertly made, but were actually more affordable for people. And I promise you that every single, and Bibba's clothing wasn't like super expensive, like it was affordable to most people. You could like save up and buy a piece. And back then, there wasn't really a culture of buying like a Shein dress once and wearing it. Like people buy something and then wear it for years. That's why people didn't mind. And in the exhibition, like there was a part of it where they alluded to the fact that, people just used to save up for her stuff because they could just buy one piece and then just use that over and over again. And I can assure you that Bibba's clothing, and I saw a lot of it up close at the exhibition, is way better constructed than most luxury brands now, which is hilarious because her clothing was like deliberately affordable for people and it was so well constructed. It's like quite funny. I knew a guy I worked with at DM's, Dr. Martin, sales assistant making minimum wage, who would save half her salary to buy a luxury designer bag every few months and then she wouldn't eat. People are committed. Damn. That's insane. That's so insane. Luke says, save your money and spend it on experiences instead. I've just graduated and I wish I spent more money on nights out, making memories with friends than jackets or stupid bags I don't need. Yeah, I think you kind of get to a point like, I think when I first got into fashion, I definitely spent more money than I do now. I buy fashion so rarely these days because it's just like, and I have a list of stuff I want to buy, but to me, it just doesn't make sense most of the time. So, and even like when I said I'm saving up for a Rick jacket, it's not like I can't necessarily buy the Rick jacket now. It's more so that there are bigger priorities. Like I need to put money back into like, improving equipment for my YouTube channel and like, involving hiring an editor for my channel and all this sort of thing. So something like a Rick jacket is so low on the priority list. Um, so yeah, that's the thing. It's just I don't know why I buy so little clothing these days compared to like when I first got into fashion. I just wanted to like buy stuff. Maybe because I just know how the industry works and how everything is. So I don't feel this sense of urgency to just buy clothing that I know doesn't even cost that much to make or like, all those kind of things. Honestly, producing clothes is actually just unethical at this point. The waste is so insane. Yes, totally true. Totally true. Elliot says, I've been saying high-end fashion is fast fashion nowadays. The love and effort just isn't there. It's strictly about what sells. That's facts. That's facts. Fuck it, I'm making my own clothes like they did in the olden days. I've actually started doing that. So I can't really sew, but I can make patterns. So I've been working with tailors where I make patterns for them to and kind of like explain what I'm going for them to like sew me a piece. And I've been doing that recently. That's probably why I'm making less clothes. Sorry, buying less clothing because I've been doing that quite recently actually. And I'm hoping to learn to sew soon so I can actually just make my clothes too. That will be really good because it's just getting to the point where it's just like, And then also clothes that I would want to wear, I don't find them, especially with my size. So that's also a big issue. Making $500,000 a year to tell these fashion brands how to be sustainable. Textbook greenwashing. It's crazy to see these consulting guys. Oh yeah, the sustainability consultants. That's a crazy bag. That bag is insane. Like the sustainability consultant for LVMH, where you get paid like 750K a year just to chat shit. That's insane. No, that bag is insane. That like sustainability consultant is wild. Like that as a job is like is is insane. Yeah, what Elliot is saying, you realize you don't need anything, it's just wants. Yeah, that's true. Um, as a vegan, I buy bags with natural fibers, e.g., cotton, linen, totes, or just buy secondhand leather bags from thrift and consignment stores. The world does not need more plastic vegan leather. I know, right? Just the thought of buying glued on Prada shoes disgusts me. Okay, Rose is saying, I'm guessing this is in response to me saying why I don't buy a lot of clothes these days. You know about the industry and also perhaps you're more confident in yourself. A lot of this is rooted in insecurity, in my opinion. The fashion and beauty industry preys on that. Yeah, I totally agree. Um, totally agree. Like, I'll give you a good example of like exactly what I'm talking about. Let me just show you guys something. Um, so let me see if I can find this. Okay, cool. So what I'm showing now is shout out to Keezy. So Keezy is one of my friends. He has a fashion YouTube channel as well called Keezy TV. He has a brand called Haven Court. Really, really good brand. Like I really do like some of his stuff. Do I like everything? No. But like I'll tell you some stuff that I'm probably going to buy soon from his website. So these work jackets, I'm definitely looking to buy these. Um, let's see, these denim jackets. So I want to buy this because I have this jacket, right? This denim jacket here. Every time I wear it, I get compliments because it fits so good. So good. Like the fit is sensational on this jacket and the quality is through the damn roof. Now, I promise you that the quality of Haven Court is better than most luxury brands. Like, I'm not even trying to be mean or I'm not even joking. And Haven Court will charge you what, £300 for a denim jacket that you know is going to last a long time, and then you buy like a Dior jacket that's denim that disintegrates and it costs like 2,000. So there's just no world in which I'm going to buy a luxury jacket when I can just buy the Haven Court jacket that's really well made, really good quality. The wash is great. The fit is so good that every time I wear it, people are like, oh my God, where is that from? Why? So it's just like, that's also why I don't buy a lot of luxury because it's just like, what's the point? It doesn't even make sense. Like, I'm spending less money to buy a better quality product. I'm spending less money to buy a Haven Court jacket that fits better. The quality of denim is better. It's probably going to last longer, and it's more interesting when people see it. Why the hell would I buy? And that's what confuses me about like luxury in general. I just don't like the market for me personally. Obviously, buy what you want to buy, but the whole idea of it doesn't make sense to me. Like the whole idea of like luxury, sometimes it doesn't make any sense unless it's something that you can't get in from any other brand. But luxury brands, like luxury in quotation marks, if we're talking about the Dior's of the world and the Louis Vuittons, they don't make stuff that's unique. So especially menswear, which is what I buy because I can't fit into women's wear. If I want unique menswear, I have to go to Yoji or Rick Owens or Kiko Kostadanov or like different designers that play with silhouette. But that when I say luxury fashion, I don't really look at those brands. Those brands are expensive. Some of them are close to as expensive as luxury brands, but I don't really put those brands as luxury brands. The reason why you buy into those brands is more how they innovate in terms of shape, how they innovate in terms of using weird fabrics and trying to play with that. That's why you buy into those brands. You're not buying into it because you're trying to signify wealth or, you know, you're like, I've got Dior because I'm so rich. So it's just like, it just depends. Ain't easy being cheesy. Lil C says, but it's Dior. The luxury industry is not dead. It has literally transformed into the worst monster ever. Yeah, it's luxury is not dead in the sense that luxury fashion makes more money than it ever has. So obviously it's not dead. If anything, it's having the time of its life, to be fair. But luxury fashion is dead in the sense that everything that luxury fashion stood for doesn't exist right now. Everything that luxury brands kind of were associated with, they're no longer associated with. Everything that they marketed, everything that was the reason why people bought the clothing is no longer like there anymore. Luke says, I can't imagine actually giving my money to Kiko Kostanov. No, I disagree. I love Kiko, especially the trousers. The trousers are insane. Sheehan's primary demographic being 30-something-year-old women who make 60K a year who've deluded themselves into thinking they're sustainable. Wait, there's no way. Cornbow, what argument do they use to justify that, buying from Shein is sustainable? I really want to know what the logic is of that. I'm so curious. Instead of brands burning merchandise, they should send it all to LA shops to get stolen. They even put up signs saying that it's okay to steal as long as it doesn't exceed a certain amount of money. But the problem is, if they do that, then no one will buy the clothes because everyone will just wait until they can steal the clothes, and then the brands would not make any money anymore. What do y'all think about buying for conceptual/intellectual art-driven design? Is that worth it in your eyes? I think it really depends. I think that because some of the like conceptual fashion is really expensive. Like if you're trying to buy into Yoji and look like Willy Wonka, um, not that there's anything wrong with looking like Willy Wonka. It's cool. I love Yoji too. I wear Yoji, but I'm saying that sometimes I wear Yoji on the street and people look at me funny, or people look at me like, what the hell are you wearing? That stuff is weird. Or like when I wear like a massive red, like I think I showed it in the last stream, massive red Anzubilamista top hat. And people are like, well, not in the 1980s. Why are you wearing a top hat that looks like that? But I just love it because I'm into the creative side of fashion. So I wear that. I don't really care what anyone thinks. But the reality is some people can get attacked for looking different than other people. Some people just don't want to be the center of attention all the time and have people looking at them. So I think you have to decide that for yourself if you want to spend a lot of money to support designers that, make really conceptual stuff. So I think it just depends. It really, really just depends. Kiko doesn't like blacks. AZ, is that like is that a known thing? What I do know about Kiko is there was one time when he went brazy on his Instagram page, insulting Virgil Abloh. That is something I do remember. I remember he went just berserk on Virgil Abloh at one point, and I was like, why is he doing that? It's so like in bad taste to do that. Micah says, guys, I'm in Liverpool and the size of the flannel store here tells me everything I need to know about the city. Oh my god, Micah, you're crazy. I work with flannels, so I shouldn't. No flannel slander is allowed. That's actually funny. That's so funny. What, like Liverpool people like buying D squared and like all that sort of stuff. Flannel's core. Only bad part of wearing a brand like Kiko is the minutes explanation I have to do when I tell someone what brand my jacket is. Where's that from? Kiko Kostanov. I've never heard of that. Um I'm trying to keep up with the comments. Oh my god, you guys are active today in the comments. I can't keep up. Oh my god. How do I keep up? Let's see. I get harassed with compliments wearing Yoji, and yes, I have that red hat. Andy. Oh, you have the same Andy hat. No way. Great minds think alike. I think it just depends where you are. I think that when I'm in London, there's parts of London that I go to where people look at me weirdly. Then there's parts of London I go to where everyone's like, "Oh my god, your outfit's so cool." Da, da, da. Like, where did you get that from? That's so cool. I like that you dress different. I think it just depends on the market. Um, but there's certain places I go to where they're like, "What the hell is this guy wearing?" And it makes me realize that the UK is quite open-minded compared to like a lot of neighboring European countries. Like when I go to even somewhere that I think is supposed to be quote unquote open-minded, like when I go to the Netherlands just on holiday or whatever, and I wear like really interesting like avant-garde things, people are looking at me like I'm wearing the most outlandish stuff on earth. It's really strange. Um I can contribute on that very well. I bought a lot of Tom Brown, not the basic stuff, but learned that it's difficult often to walk around like that in everyday life as people look weird. Oh, you're saying that people look weirdly at you when you're wearing that Tom Brown stuff. I also think that it could also be like a practicality thing. I think that when I first got into fashion, I dressed more avant-garde than I do now. I don't know why that is. I don't know why that I don't actually know the answer to that question. Like, why do I do that? Why do I dress less avant-garde than I used to? Um, maybe it's because I think, okay, kind of like Mika saying it's not practical. Maybe it's because like now the places I go to, the people I work with, it's not it's not relevant to wear that sort of stuff. Like it just doesn't really make a lot of sense. You're just going to stand out, but in the wrong way. Whereas I guess when I was younger, I wasn't going to meetings with like big brands and stuff. So I was just going to university and back so I could just wear what I wanted to and like trying to get into fashion week shows and stuff. So I think it was a bit different. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why. Okay, Mika says I switched to wearing Le Maire now. I'm the happiest since I have ever been. Practical, comfy, and stylish clothes are the best for me. That's interesting. And you can also wear like comfy, stylish clothes with a twist, which is what Le Maire is, or like Bottega. Or even some Balenciaga stuff that it's kind of like a denim jacket but with a twist. Um, so yeah. AZ says I think Kiko used to hate all the attention Virgil used to get, especially around the time when people were comparing him to Karl Lagerfeld, rubbed him the wrong way. Plus, he hates blacks. Guys, does Kiko Kostadnov hate the blacks? Is that true? I don't know Kiko personally, so I don't know how he feels about the Urbans. I don't know if he doesn't like the Urbans. I'm in Liverpool and no durag on outside the flannel store. Feels like an episode of Rick and Morty. Oh my god. Yuni says, I'm ignoring all Virgil slander as someone who hated him until 6 months before he died. You'll have time to redeem yourselves and change your opinions. That's true. You can change your opinions. It is valid. Like, there's so many opinions on certain designers and, you know, brands that I've changed over time. Like it's very valid to change your opinions. I will say though that what has been strange is people that claim that they've always liked Virgil now that obviously he's passed and maybe they have a deeper understanding of what he was trying to achieve. And in terms of what he was trying to achieve, it was really influential. And I think people have started to understand that because I remember I'm not sure how many of you remember the really old streams where it would just be like me and Dami like defending Virgil Abloh into the grave like trying to explain what he's trying to achieve and like why this thing that he did makes sense in the context of this and all that sort of stuff. Um, that was an interesting time. Micah says, I'm just built different, but I don't mind wearing eye-catching stuff. Avant-garde is fun. Yeah, Micah, you still do dress quite avant-garde, to be fair. It's cool though. I like the way Micah dresses. I admire people who are into fashion but don't wear anything conceptual, instead preferring to wear a plain white Celine t-shirt, no peacocking, just quietly stunting for the love of it. There's also like a there's a subsector of fashion. I think it's rooted in elitism where you would see like established fashion journalists. It happens every time because I might go on a trip. The last time was maybe I went on a trip with Barber. I did something as well. I did a job for Barber, and we went to Florence. It was during Pitti Uomo, 2 seasons ago, Pitti. Um, and it was when SS Daily was showing at Pitti. And essentially, there were a few journalists that were making fun of the people at Pitti for wearing like really interesting suits and suits that have interesting colors and like dressing really avant-garde. And these journalists were saying like, I don't know why people are always trying to like peacock in fashion. I fucking hate, people that peacock in fashion, and I fucking hate, these people. They're just tryhards and they're tryhards. And in my head, I was just thinking, for what if they want to dress like that though? You kind of sound elitist. Like I get what you're trying to say, but you kind of sound elitist. So like all these people, they're not even invited to the shows and they just want to peacock for fashion and get their pictures taken. But it just came from such an like an elitist energy. It just rubbed me the wrong way. Um, so I do appreciate some people to going back to AZ's comment. I appreciate some people that genuinely just want to dress that way, but I do think that some people it's rooted in elitism. It's like this, oh, I'm better than you because you try too hard, type of thing. I can't go into the boardroom of his concrete tycoon father in avant-garde. Oh man, that's funny. Do all those cool kids who stand outside of shows dress in an avant-garde way feel like I never see people in real life wearing runway comme des garçons? I see a lot of people wearing runway comme des garçons, to be fair, but only in London and Paris. I don't see anyone wearing that sort of stuff outside of those two places. I do see a lot of maybe I also think that my perspective on life or the world is very warped because I might say, oh, I see a lot of people wearing avant-garde comme des garçons, but then I'm literally going to fashion events all the time in London. So maybe what I see is kind of skewed based on the industry I work in. But I will say I do see a lot of people wearing like runway comme des garçons stuff. Sergio says, I miss Virgil, even though he was really mainstream. His work was fun and inspiring. It's knowing Kiko listens to Gucci Mane and Young Thug. Is this actually true? To be fair, though, I will say that listening to hip hop does not mean someone can't be racist, though. I won't even expand on that. I have no idea who Kiko is. It just sounds like the makeup brand. Oh, so yeah, I do realize I actually need to always do this stuff. I need to stop. I need to get out of the habit of just saying designers' names or brand names without explaining who they are, because I do realize that there's new people that come to this channel every time and they don't really know sometimes what I'm talking about. So Kiko Kostadinov is like um a London-based designer who's been like a mainstay of London. He studied his MA at Central St. Martin's, which was when he was kind of like making a lot of noise. He's mainstream-wise known for his collaboration with Asics. His collaboration got so successful that Asics allowed him to like create his own silhouettes. I think his collaboration with Asics is still ongoing. It's been like going on for so many years at this point, like a really long time. And his earlier work was inspired by like a lot of like workwear, taking work uniforms of different things and then changing the silhouette slightly and making it more fashion forward. Nowadays I think his inspiration points are kind of random. Like one day it's the Kentucky Derby, the next day it's something else. It's like medieval England. um but what I will say is that it's cool. I like Kiko. None of it is my size, but I do like what he does, and he also has the Fanning twins who design the women's wear. So it's kind of like him doing the men's wear, and then the Fannings doing the women's wear. But I wanted to go on a website so people can see, if you don't know who Kiko is or kind of what his clothes look like. This is kind of what his clothing looks like. Loro Piana jacket. Most people don't learn color theory and they think they're smart just wearing black. Hey, what if we want to be, we want to be crows? How about that? If you want to be crows. But yeah, this is kind of going back to like the workwear sort of technical thing that was like the early stuff that Kiko used to do that he's still doing. Luke really doesn't like Kiko. Oh, this is crazy. I remember this when Tommy Hilfiger did the roller disco show and he made all the black models dance like they're on Soul Train. That was insane. That was so insane. Where the fashion stores in Liverpool, there's like, what's it called? Seventh Store, right? That's a store in Liverpool that's kind of like cool. They've got a few things, I think. It's called Sevens or something. It begins with I think it's Seventh Stores though. I remember they kind of stock some interesting things in Liverpool. I think they're based in Liverpool. I could be wrong though. The Scousers in the live stream can tell me. I really need to see Luke put his design skills where his mouth is. I'm so curious. Show us the portfolio. Wait, the seventh store closed down. Oh no. Oh no. No. That's crazy. Let's look at some of the Kiko Kostadinov women's wear. I do really like the women's wear. And kind of like the footwear they make is so cool too. Like the women's wear stuff, it's cool. Like these like ribbon sort of shoes. No, I love Kiko women's wear is hard. Kiko women's wear is fire. Like, see what I mean? Like this stuff is so interesting. And then like people are just like, no, I want to buy the basic Dior thing that I can buy anywhere else, but I just want to pay $3,000 to show how rich I am. And it improves my self-esteem. I enjoy watching your commentary about fashion mascots too. AZ says the woman's wear is better than the men's. Would love it if I could convince my wives to wear it. Looks like a more polished version of Ottolinger. Oh, that's a cool take. Like polished Ottolinger. Yeah, I can roll with that. I can roll with that. Someone said the clothes are ugly. That's what I love about it though. There's many brands that are ugly that I love. There's many brands that make like really ugly stuff that I just love. It's kind of like cool. Like even a skirt like that, like a mini skirt, but with kind of like really interesting panels and stuff. It's just cool. This is all the A6 stuff. New season A6. He says it's ugly norm called tech wear bullshit. I disagree. I love it. I'm going to Antwerp this month. So excited. Do you have any recommendations? Watch my YouTube video on best places to shop in Antwerp. But in Antwerp, go to the Momu Museum if it's open. For some weird reason, sometimes it's just not open. It's really strange. But where the Momu Museum is, on the top floor is actually the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in Antwerp. So when I interviewed Walter van Berendonck, I went to the museum, and then after I was done at the museum, I went to see him on the top floor where he was. So it's kind of like cool. So definitely go to the Momi Museum, like insane exhibitions, really good. Go to Vier store. It's Vier is how it's spelt. The stuff there is kind of expensive, like all the stuff there is retail price. Just go there for the experience of it because that's Ras Simmons' favorite store in Antwerp. Then you can go to like the Andre Lemisa store. It's just like you don't have to buy anything, just cool experience, see how it is. You can go to the Dries Van Noten store. You can go to Labels Inc. Labels Inc. is like a secondhand consignment shop where you can find like insane stuff for like crazy steals. Um, so yeah, go to Labels Inc. is like where you're probably going to find some of the most interesting stuff for the lowest price. There's also another shop called Verdict 6. It's spelt like Vridge Dagmarkt 6. Um, but that's basically like Verdict Market, I think, stands for Friday Market in Flemish or like Dutch. But it's open on more than Fridays. But it's basically run by this guy called Willie. Really, really cool guy. He actually watches some of my videos and comments sometimes, which is really fun. Like he grew up with all the Antwerp guys. Like he used to party with Margello and stuff. Super, super cool guy. Last time I was in Antwerp, he gave me like this crazy Walter van Beirendonck magazine from like years ago that I have in my office. It's like really, really cool. So that's also a really cool spot. It's mainly menswear in that shop, but once again, like secondhand menswear, some stuff even like sample menswear for crazy prices. So yeah, but if you watch my video, I have like all the spots in that video. So yeah, let me catch up to the comments really quick. I'll have smoke with Labels Inc. until the end of time. Why do you have smoke with Labels Inc.? What did Labels Inc. do? To be honest, the web design actually fits the try hard, normcore techwear bullshit aesthetic a lot of his customers and followers are trying to achieve. Always makes me confused why people want young designers killing it at their own brand to go to these huge houses where merch is the main MO. Money wise, I get it though. I guess it's because like, so for example, I don't know Martine Rose personally. I don't. I've met Martine Rose a few times, but like I don't like we're not friends or anything. That being said, I'm like a fan of her work, and also she's worked so hard in the industry for so many years and not gotten her dues. I think the first time she got her dues was like when she was menswear consultant for Demna and then the Nike collab. So I think just for her sake and just for her to have like financial security after so many years of just like toiling away is a reason why I'd like to see Martine Rose. And also she'll design interesting stuff at a major luxury brand, but that's why I want to see her at a major luxury brand. I think it's more if I root for a designer, I want to see them have financial security because it's important as a creative, as a designer. But yeah, they're not going to like, especially a luxury brand like Louis Vuitton, like Gucci or stuff, they're not going to make insane stuff that deviates so far from the norm because they won't be allowed to do that. Oh, someone's saying a tough crowd, and Crow says, we're not tough, we just have standards and know what we want. Now, I think it's fine to know what you want and have standards, to be honest. Um, I think it's completely fine. I think it's definitely completely fine. That's why I don't have an issue with like disagreeing with Luke all the time. I think it's very good if people have their own opinions. And this chat is not, one massive echo chamber of just the same opinion. Um, so yeah. We need a name drop counter. It's not my fault. I work in the industry. I just meet people. I can't help it. That's funny though. A name drop counter. Yeah, Ronnie says, I love the diversity of opinions here. Exactly. I champion, if you disagree with my personal taste, that's completely fine. There's nothing wrong with it. And if I disagree with your personal taste, that's also completely fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I think there's beauty in people having different opinions on fashion. It's fine because a lot of stuff that I talk about anyway is subjective. So yes, I have a lot of context to talk about a lot of these things, but it's still subjective. Martine is one of them women you can literally meet on the streets of London. Yeah, facts. She's my friend's auntie, and I used to see her a lot. No, Martine Rose she's nice, man. Really cool energy. Really, really cool energy. Take a shot every time Io says he works in the industry, went to CSM, has been in the industry for years. That's hilarious. Translation, it's not my fault. I have reasons to flex. But which black and brown people wear her clothes? Oh my gosh. That is funny. But which black and brown people wear her clothes? If you guys remember that stream, that's so funny. Oh yeah, that's another thing I say all the time, pattern cutting. Because that's why won't I say that? That's the only design skill I have. I can't sew, I can't do a lot of things, but I can make patterns. So of course I'm gonna be like, "Oh, I'm a pattern cutter. I started as a pattern cutter." Of course I'm gonna keep saying that. Oh my god, that's funny. Oh my god, that's funny. You guys are actually hilarious. But anyway, going back to luxury fashion is honestly a shell of itself. Luxury fashion at this point is essentially fast fashion. It's quite sad. Um, yeah, it's like I said, my biggest issue with luxury fashion is just it's not the markup, it's not even the price because we know that we're paying for the brand. It's not that. It's just if you're going to charge me $5,000 for any piece of clothing in any capacity, at least it should be crafted properly. There shouldn't be loose threads. There shouldn't be stitches hanging all over the place. The lining shouldn't be compromised. There should be good lining. Some jackets don't even have lining because people are trying to save costs. There should be a very lovely lining in the jacket. Um, Everything, there should be hidden seams. I don't want to see seams all over the place. Like there's a let me see if I can put a video on the screen because I went to the Celine pop-up recently and I was examining the way because I love to do this thing where because luxury brands I don't trust their construction anymore. So with most luxury brands, I really closely examine the way that they construct things and finish things. And there was this lace top at the Celine store that I examined, and the finishing was like sensational. And there were no like unnecessary seams. They did this like technique where you have to, I can't remember what machine it is that you use. I've completely gone blank, but there's a machine that you use where you can sew the sleeve into like the armhole to prevent like that finishing stitch from being exposed. Um, but I'm going to make a video about it anyway, like the whole pop-up, and I'm going to mention it. So yeah. How luxury lost this luster counter. You know what it is? I should get royalties for how many people I've put onto that book. Honestly, I'm like the number one promoter of that book. And even till today, my Patreon fashion book club is still going on how luxury lost this luster. Like those guys have made a killing off of my promo. Like at this point, I should just have unlimited like stock of how luxury lost its luster. Like Dana Thomas needs to give me royalties. It's actually insane. Oh, someone said, "Thank you. I'm pissed that everyone is cutting the lining from their sports jackets. Even Xenia is going down that path, and it's really annoying." Yeah, it's because they're trying to cut corners, and that's the thing. As much as I don't even buy luxury, but I buy expensive clothing. Let me put it that way. But I don't buy luxury in the sense of like Dior, Louis Vuitton, Gucci. But I always examine clothes because even if I'm going, like I said, my issue is not the price. You can charge whatever you want to charge. It's down to the customers to decide if they think it's worth that. But my issue is just at least construct it properly. And so when I want to buy something, I examine the finishing. If I examine a jacket and there's no lining, there's no way I'm buying that crap. Like it's impossible. There's no way my money is leaving my account to buy such a badly made jacket. But it's just sad that they cut all these corners and yet the prices are increasing. I think that's my biggest bone to pick with a lot of these luxury brands and just the brands of the conglomerates. Rachel says, right, it's wild that you can't trust the construction, that you have to examine everything you might want to buy so closely, which sucks for people who don't live in big cities. Yeah, that's true, because at least I can go into London and, see things in person and all this stuff. But if you live in quite a secluded place, then yeah, like you can't really see the stuff up close. You kind of just have to like see it on the website. And if you're the customer, then you order it online. Spending £500 on a Celine t-shirt on your recommendation. Please do not buy a £500 Celine t-shirt, please. Luke says, has that white woman thanked you for promoting her book? She has, actually, funny enough. She messaged me on Twitter. And she said that I see that like you've been doing like a series on my book, and like you're always talking about my book, and like she's basically just saying thank you for like keeping the story of the book alive, is basically what she said. So she did actually thank me. I'm not getting royalties though. I need some royalties, but yes, she has actually shown appreciation for the fact that the traffic of that book from this channel is actually insane. Urban Doves is crazy. Rachel says, to find quality, one has to look for very small, tiny brands like hyperlocal. That's true. That's very, very true. W in the chat for appreciative white woman. Dana Thomas is nice though. Like Dana Thomas is actually a nice person. Like Dana Thomas is actually really down to earth and not like stuck up in anywhere. Like I love Dana Thomas. Dana Thomas is nice. And I'm a big fan of Dana's work, so it makes it even easier. Even after I'm done with the How Luxury Lost Its Luster book series, because I've been doing it for so long, I've been covering it for so long, I feel like I need to go away from like, I might have to do the next fashion book club might have to be on something obscure. Like I might have to review my book on like Alexei Brodovich with like, and talk about like graphic design at like Harper's Bazaar, just something so far left. So we're not talking about luxury fashion. I think we need a big break from luxury fashion after I finish that book on Patreon, because yeah, like I feel like I've just been bashing luxury brands for like 8 months straight. Yeah, the fashion book clubs are only on Patreon or on my YouTube channel memberships. The main reason why is because like it's mainly because every time I do long form content, people hate it, it seems. Like every time I post a really long video, people complain. Like I get hate in my comments, like, oh my God, this is lazy content. You're not editing your videos properly. You're being lazy, which I find funny, because to do a fashion book club episode, I have to read 40 pages of a chapter. And as I'm reading each page, I literally have to like analyze what I'm reading and like write notes. Do you know how long that takes? People are like, oh my God, this is like lazy content because you don't edit, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what are you talking about? So I think the whole thing just pissed me off. So I was just like, no, fuck it. So what I do now is the people who, pay on Patreon, I'm guessing that they would appreciate long form content, because I guess if you're paying for something, if something's long, you wouldn't mind. So that's why I'm just like, yeah, I'm just going to put the really, really long stuff. Like I'll do like reactions to a fashion documentary on Patreon, and it'll be 3 hours long. Like people who are part of Patreon know this. So yeah, that's why I put that content on Patreon, because I think my main channel, I don't know if people will have the attention span for that or care about that sort of content or even enjoy it, to be honest. So that's why I started putting that stuff on Patreon. That's actually why I did it. So like there's certain content that before I had a Patreon, if I post it on my YouTube channel, it would get like 100 views, even with 100k subscribers. Just people don't care. So that's the kind of content I'd put on Patreon, because I think the more in-depth stuff is stuff that I think people on Patreon would like, and then the shorter, more snappy, more like newsworthy or analyzing a runway show, I think people appreciate more so on YouTube. So that's why I separated the two. AZ says, funny thing is, there's no such thing as a video being too long if you're interested in the subject matter. He will just be complaining for the sake of it. Don't listen to them, mate. I mean, it's true because there are people that absolutely cannot stand that I started live streaming. They want me to just post 10-minute videos all the time, but I prefer live streaming because you have like a back and forth relationship with the people that are, watching. It's kind of like a community vibe in a way. It's almost like a group review as well, because even though I'm reviewing like a runway show or reviewing a news story, people are adding their input in real time. And so if you watch the live stream back, not only are you listening to my opinion, you can also look at the live stream chat and see what everyone else's thoughts are in real time too. So you kind of have all of that going on at the same time. And I kind of like that for a format, especially because so few people do it in fashion. I think there's only like 2 of us that really stream in fashion. So yeah, that's why I like live streams. But there's people that cannot stand it. Like they unsubscribe just because I started live streaming. So I think it just depends on the audience. But I think I just had to just understand that at some point you just have to do what you want to do, and what will be will be. Luke wants the Galliano documentary reaction. Do you know what's funny? So I was going to do the Galliano documentary reaction yesterday, but then I sat down and I was like, oh, because I haven't actually watched the documentary yet. I watched like bits of it, like, but not even more than 20 minutes of it, because I wanted to watch it for the first time on Patreon. So people get my first reactions. But I was like, this documentary is 2 hours. So if I do a reaction to this documentary, it'll probably be like 4 to 5 hours long. So I'm like, I need a whole day to like sit down and react to it. So I might do it tomorrow. Probably, if I don't do it tomorrow, then I'm definitely doing it on Monday, like without the shadow of a doubt, because those are the 2 days that I have free, tomorrow and Monday. So yeah. Oh, people are asking where can you get the Galliani documentary? You can get it on Mubi. So I wouldn't watch it on live because my stream, anytime I don't know what it is about my live streams, but anytime I do anything that's copyrighted, the live stream just shuts down, which is why I can only react to. This is also another reason why I can't do that kind of content on YouTube. You can't react to copyrighted thing on YouTube because the videos get blocked. But if I react to something that's copyrighted on Patreon, then you just upload it to Patreon and it's fine. So yeah, that's it. Crow says, yes, these lies are the best. I've been missing out. I just watch the lies like podcast sometimes if I miss it. Okay, Luke is saying a live reaction stream might be more fun. I guess I can do a live stream in Patreon, but I can't do a live stream on YouTube for a documentary. It's going to get shut down like almost immediately because of the copyright. I don't think many people will be very happy with that. I watched the documentary and Kingdom of Dreams is way better. Okay. I mean, I haven't watched the full documentary, so I wouldn't know. But Kingdom of Dreams is the thing about Kingdom of Dreams, though. It's quite long because it's 4 episodes, so you get quite a lot of context when you watch Kingdom of Dreams because so many episodes to go through. But it is a good documentary. You miss a lot of context though, because I think one thing I will say is that a lot of people now, maybe it's like an attention span thing, they just like to watch documentaries where they get all the information, but you can't really get all the information in a documentary, which is why so many people have messaged me about my Patreon book club series saying that, oh my God, like I watched Kingdom of Dreams and like this stuff wasn't there, or that stuff that you mentioned from the book wasn't there. And I've almost really reviewed half of it because Kingdom of Dreams is Gods and Kings mixed with How Luxury Lost Its Luster. And I've only reviewed How Luxury Lost Its Luster. But like I said, once I'm done with that book, I have to go to something obscure. Like I can't talk about luxury fashion for a while. I need a break. So I'm gonna have to start talking about really obscure things like Biba and Alexei Brodovich and like fashion in the war period. Like that's the type of stuff I'll be on once I'm done with that book. Kingdom of Heaven is greater than Kingdom of Dreams. Hallelujah. Yeah, I can imagine this too, that Kingdom of Dreams has an entirely different focus because Galliano's documentary is about Galliano and his work and how he came up in the industry, whereas Kingdom of Dreams is about how luxury fashion changed. And Galliano is just like a factor in it, but it's a very different, like what they're trying to achieve is very different. You need a richer sugar daddy slash mummy to hire help for the editing and dealing with the copyright. I think it's also because I'm not a big enough YouTuber to have like a YouTube manager. So I know certain YouTubers, when you're like big, I'm talking like huge, like people that have millions of subscribers or like 600K subscribers. They get like their average view count is like 100K views per video. Those kind of YouTubers have YouTube managers, and YouTube managers can just deal with anything. Because there are times when I've had times when I'm talking and some stupid ass like IMG or like Sony Entertainment, Universal, they just copyright my voice and say it's some song, and I appeal it, and then YouTube is like, oh, they've rejected your appeal, so you can't monetize this video. And I'm like, it's my voice. But because I don't have a YouTube manager, I can't do anything about it. So that's just what it is. Whereas if I had a YouTube manager, the YouTube manager will just see that it's my voice and then just remove it immediately. So that kind of thing, I'll be able to like do more reactions to different things. But unfortunately, I'm not that important. So maybe one day, but not for now. I'm not important enough for stuff like that. I'm like, no, my parents only had a small boutique shop when I was growing up, but they're both self-made. Wait, Moalola is not self-made. Why do people think that Moalola is self-made? How has she been able to market herself to be self-made? Do people actually think that Moalola is self-made? That's crazy. That's crazy. Maybe because obviously I went to school in Nigeria, so I know of Moalola, and like I know the people she hangs around, and I know her friendship group, and I know what school she went to. She's a rich kid. Like when I say rich, there's rich and then there's rich. Like Moalola is like rich. Like Moalola is not self-made, like started from the bottom. Like, Moalola is like rich. Like Moalola is like people in Nigeria, they say that like people in Nigeria, we refer to like Mo Lola as part of the crew. There's like a clique of people in Nigeria that only roll with other rich kids. And if you're not one of the rich kids, it's almost like you can't roll with us. You either have to be famous or a rich kid. It's like Mo Lola, Dato Black, like that whole group of like kids. Um, or you have to like work in fashion to hang out with them or something. That's like Mo Lola. That's her. Self-made is crazy. Self-made is insane. Am I excited for the new government? I don't care about the British government, to be fair. I think they're all as bad as each other. I don't really care too much about politics because I just think they're all corrupt. Be careful, Molola might be on a stream. I know, right? After I had my whole Twitter fight with Molola was going ham. She was like, "How is this YouTuber going to tell me that I'm butthurt?" That was funny. That's funny. That's funny. That's funny. Wait, why did we fight? I don't know how many people know about it, but like basically, I'll just skip past it because I don't want to give Moralola just free press. But basically, a while ago, I made a video around the time when she did the whole like Crimea River, Saudi Arabia thing, and basically, her friend sent her the video like a few days ago, and so she commented that, oh, you're just chatting shit because you can't create. People that create do, and those who can't create critique, is basically what she said. It's basically saying that the only reason why I'm a critic is because I can't make clothes, which is hilarious because I used to be a pattern maker. But anyway, we move. Um, so that was her whole thing. And so I was being, because she was just trying to be cheeky. So in the spirit of jest, I don't dislike Malala, by the way. I'm like, I still like her clothes. I still like what she does. I'm not a hater. I was just being witty because she was like, oh, those who can't create are critics. So I was like, okay. So I posted on my Instagram story and I said that why is it that designers get so butthurt over constructive criticism? Especially because in that video, I wasn't like being mean or anything. I was genuinely saying that, oh, like this, she could have handled it this way or that way or whatever. And so obviously she saw my Instagram story where I said, oh, why do designers get butthurt? And then she just went ham on Twitter. Like she started bugging on Twitter. Like she just started subtweeting me and like just going crazy. She was like, don't tell me what to do. Who are you? Um, this YouTuber is telling me I'm butthurt. Like she was going ham. She called me the KKK. She said that like black people don't need the KKK anymore because you black people always hate on each other and black people always, you know, bring other black people down. There's no need for the KKK when you have people like, me, is basically what she was saying. Like she was just going off. I was like, God damn. I was being constructive and I gave you constructive criticism. You basically try to be witty and say that I'm a critic because I don't know how to make clothes, but my audience knows that I used to be a pattern maker and I've worked in the industry, which already makes your opinion not valid. Um, so that's already invalid. But I was just being witty back. You can't be witty and then be angry when I'm witty back. So I was like, oh, so why are you butthurt? And then she started saying that I'm bringing black people down and I'm hating on black people and I'm comparable to the KKK. Ah. Ah. And then she started talking about like, don't tell me what to do and all that stuff. I was like, you've been hanging around Kanye West way too much. Kanye West has you moving insane. Like Kanye West has you moving insane. And like I said, I don't dislike her, by the way. Like the whole thing was just her trying to be witty when I gave her constructive criticism, and I was witty back, and she self-destructed. But that's what I'm. People need to understand that I'm a journalist. So I'm good with words, so I know exactly what to say to get under your skin. So if you try to be witty to me, especially if you're like a well-known designer, I know exactly what to say to make you go angry. So I guess I just got under her skin and she couldn't take it. And she also, the funny thing about the whole situation, this is the last thing I'll say about it. The funny thing about the whole situation is that she tried to behave like she didn't care about what I said, but then she had a whole tantrum on Twitter. So how can you be nonchalant about the situation and not care and literally have like 10 tweets about me? Like that's crazy. That's actually crazy. Malala should have never apologized for the scat in the first place. Any person who should be upset at is herself. She has the backbone of a snail. This guy said I'll drink her bathwater. AZ, you are insane. Yeah, that's the excuse that people use all the time. It's always like those who can't do critique. But it's never valid to me because I used to be a pattern maker. So it actually never works for someone like me. I've made clothes in the past, I've worked for brands in the past. It's not valid for me. But like they try to, it's just the easiest cop out for designers to be like, oh, you're just a critic because you don't know how to make clothes and you can't do anything about making clothes. Um, so yeah. It's not so unusual for creators in the industry to get easily triggered, even when you aren't trying. Some are only used to flattery. I guess so. I guess so. You and you is counting my pattern maker. You said pattern maker at least 7 times in 3 minutes. We should have a pattern maker count. Oh my word, that's funny. This is also a good point, Micah. It's a stupid comment. Can cutting room floor lady not do now? Uh, I don't want to call her cutting room floor lady because I'm a big fan of Rachel Amondi. But yeah, Rachel Amondi used to be like a fully fledged fashion designer. She studied fashion design at fashion school, like actually a well accomplished fashion designer, and then she pivoted to just having a podcast on like critiquing stuff. But yeah, what are they gonna say about Rachel Mondi? Oh, those who can't create critique. It's such a like brain dead like way of like dodging criticism, especially when it's constructive. It's so annoying. Yeah, it's like when rappers call people broke for not liking their albums. You're just broke. That's why you don't like my music. Micah, you want a name drop? I would send Micah the link, but I don't even know where Micah is right now. He could be at a party in Liverpool. Oh my god. Yeah, I like Rachel Monday too. I definitely like Rachel Monday. But it is like Agent G is saying, it is a lazy comment. It's just like avoiding any critique. And it's funny, but I guess designers aren't used to critique because like in my side of the world, you can't make videos online publicly and not be critiqued. So it's not even like I'm someone who is critiquing people, but I can't take critique myself. Like all you need to do is read my YouTube comments and know that I get critiqued on every video. And when people disagree with me, they disagree with me very harshly, which is fine. It's like, is what it is. If I put myself on a public forum and a public platform to be critiqued, then people are just going to say what they want to say. It is what it is. But yeah, the whole designers that if you don't like my work, you're broke or you're part of the KKK. Oh my god, it's so funny. So funny. Luke, stop hitting on Henry from a distance. Also, I don't buy that she saw your video for the first time 1 year later. That was such a lie. She was just mad that day and went brazy. Yeah, probably. But what she said on Twitter when she was going on her little tirade is that she was like, "Oh, my friend sent me this video a few days ago and I reacted to it. And now this guy is like saying that I'm butthurt," is basically what she said. Yeah, shout out to Haven Court. I love this hat, this like distressed hat. Haven Court. I love the wash on it. That's what I love the most about it. But yeah, it's funny. I think the whole I just saw your video 1 year later is kind of like playing into the whole I'm not even that bothered by it, even though she tweeted like 15 tweets on the day. Only the sushi eater snobs critique your videos. I mean, I don't even eat sushi, so that's funny. Are sushi eaters seen as snobs? I don't eat seafood, so I wouldn't even know. Luke says if you don't like sushi, you're a loser. I guess I'm a loser then, because I don't eat seafood. I'm not bothered. I don't even read comments. Who are you again? Yeah, exactly. I'm not bothered. I don't even care. I don't even this. And then you're literally like tweeting all day about me is a bit insane. So you obviously care, but yeah. Oh god, I love fashion. Fashion people are they're not ready for someone like me because I don't care. And I also don't like kiss anyone's ass, because I'm not like most fashion journalists. All they care about is like making money by being adjacent to brands. So they praise brands all the time, or they avoid saying anything negative about any brand or anything critical about any brand, because um they just want to work with the brands. Like, let me do a study. Like, for example, me covering these, like, oh, Burberry did this, they're destroying clothes, or oh, Dior is exploiting workers. Think of how many other fashion critics, journalists that have YouTube channels cover these kind of topics, and you have your answer, because people just want proximity to brands. But then someone like me, I just don't care. So like a lot of designers, they're just butthurt because I don't care. I don't want to be your friend. I don't want to be part of your brand. I don't want to work with you. Like, I just don't care. Um, Someone said I'm the Elon Musk of fashion. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I honestly don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. Is that good or bad? You're gonna have to watch the stream back. Sorry, I don't want to keep talking about the same thing, honestly. But if you watch the stream back, then you can get the information there. It's good, they say. And Luke says it's an insult. Anything comparable to Elon Musk is bad. That's why I was like, is that like a compliment or like a dig? I'm not sure about that one. I don't know if that's like a positive or a negative, to be honest. The Elon Musk of fashion. But I get what you're trying to say, in the sense that like I just don't care and I'm kind of independent in that sense. Um but yeah. But do you know the funny thing about like making content the way I make content, or talking about fashion the way I talk about it? It doesn't matter, because I critique Gucci all the time and I still work with Gucci. Or like I don't understand why journalists feel like they have to suck off brands, or they have to worship the ground that the brands walk on, so that they can work with brands, when you can actually have journalistic integrity and still work with the brands, in the sense that you can always point out the bad things that brands do and they won't care. Like, Gucci has never brought it up once to me that, oh, you said this thing and we didn't like it. I guess because they know I'm always going to do that and I just don't care. Um, but that's why I don't understand why certain journalists are so annoying. They're just so like, oh, I liked it. I liked it. I like everything. Is just like, I liked it. It's like, do you have any like personal opinions? Do you have any thoughts of your own, or do you just like every single thing about every single brand, and you don't want to talk about any bad thing that the luxury industry does because you have a backbone? That's the definition of having backbone as a journalist. Like, just being a yes man, right? Like, basically like indirect paid PR for brands. That's kind of like having no backbone as a writer or as a journalist. Leo says my laptop is on loud. My bad, my bad, my bad. Yeah, exactly. Oh my god, did you guys see the set? And the music, the soundtrack, sensational. Just talk about anything but the clothes. Did you see what Kim was wearing at the Balenciaga show? It was cool, wasn't it? Oh, Culture says, I like the videos. Thanks for sending the Patreon content to the YouTube. Oh, have you started watching the, because I did it yesterday or the day before, but have you started watching the Fashion Book Club on YouTube? It'll be interesting to see like people doing that, right? They don't want to ruffle feathers because of sponsorships and ads. Do you know what's funny though? Do you know what's really, really funny? I think that a reason why I work with brands is because my part of, I guess, my personal brand is that I always say things as they are. And I might be wrong or right, but I just say things as I think it and as I see fit. And I guess brands appreciate that. If I consult for a brand, I'm going to genuinely say what I think. I don't care if I'm right in front of the designer and I'm like shitting on their work, because at the end of the day, that's the reason I'm there. There was literally a time, it didn't happen, but I was going to do this thing with Hearst because I was very public about why Harper's Bazaar is like a shell of itself, and I used to talk about it publicly. And then someone from Hearst reached out to me and was like, "Oh, can you like come into the Hearst office to like talk to the Harper's Bazaar team and actually like not say it the way you say it online, but actually analyze where you think Harper's Bazaar can improve." And that meeting never happened because the person who was going to hire me to do that eventually like left Hearst. But that's kind of stuff that I work on. So you can actually be genuine and get loads of work in the industry. But I think a lot of people don't actually realize that. I think a lot of people that work in fashion or that are journalists don't realize that you can actually do that, which is why they think they have to like just praise brands all the time. Leah says, in fairness, some people don't even know how to critique anything without it becoming hate. Plus, they yearn for being accepted by brands as well, so it just ends up being mindless appreciation. Yeah, to be fair, I would say that critiquing something is definitely more difficult than praising stuff. Because if I praise something, I can just be like, oh, it's good, and then I can leave it there. If I critique something like I do on this channel, I have to give loads of reasons. Like when I critique a runway show, I have to be like, okay, I don't like this because the way they did this and the technique they use for that, and kind of the context of like, kind of when I say Demna, and you know, like for example, one critique I gave of Demna, just as an example of like why it's hard to critique, is I was saying that his usage of grunge, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth because what grunge represents in the context of a luxury brand that's selling a flannel shirt that's under the guise of grunge for thousands of dollars, it doesn't make sense in the context of what that subculture represents. So it's kind of like a contradiction to say that you're referencing grunge, but at the same time, you're referencing it in a Balenciaga collection that's going to use that grunge look, that's commodifying a culture and a subculture into a look that's going to be sold for $4,000. Like that's so anti-grunge. So it doesn't make sense a lot of the time. So, but you have to have that understanding of subcultures and critique and knowledge to actually critique that way. You can't just be like, it's shit, because people will be like, well, you're not bringing anything interesting to the table. You have to have the historical references, all that sort of stuff. So I guess that's why a lot of people don't critique, because it is actually really hard, at least to do it effectively or to do it in a way that you can actually be credible for doing it, not just, oh my God, that's shit. And then like kind of most YouTube videos I watch when this is something that happens every Met Gala, and obviously there's people who are really good at reviewing red carpet stuff, like Haute Mode, for example, but every time there's a Met Gala, everyone on YouTube becomes a fashion expert, and it's so fascinating to watch loads of videos where they're like, oh my God, that dress is not giving, oh my God, that's trash, oh my God, that's not it. And I'm like, sometimes I think to myself, maybe it's because I am who I am and I think about fashion the way I do, but I'm like, when you watch a video like that and you're done watching it, what's the takeaway? What is the like when you watch that video and you finish watching it, what do you leave that video learning? Or what information or understanding do you have leaving that video? So it just becomes very, I don't know. And as Leah says, in my opinion, fashion is subjective. It is subjective. However, critiquing fashion is subjective, but you have to critique it with knowledge, though. You can't critique fashion and just be like, that's trash, 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 because then it's not really a critique, is it? Is that really a critique to just say something's trash? AZ says hating is way more fun than praising, though, let's be honest. It's easier to hate because everyone in fashion is so god awful. Luke is hilarious. If I was the course leader at CSM, I'd let maximum 3 students in per year. Oh my god. Oh my god. That's funny. It's the quality and depth of your analysis that brings me to your content. You have reasons behind your thoughts, not blind judgment. Yeah, but there's so many other YouTubers that do that too, by the way. That I enjoy. Like Tuba has a really interesting way of like disseminating her thoughts about certain topics, or Understitch, who like talks about history, but sometimes like critique stuff within those history videos. But Understitch is like super knowledgeable about fashion history, especially like I've met Understitch personally, so we've had like fashion conversations in person. Trying to think of, there's so many, like Fashion Lover 4, when Fashion Lover 4 was making videos, Ryan Finn, whenever Ryan Finn makes videos. There's a lot of them, to be fair. There's a lot of people on YouTube that do that. So yeah. YouTuber creators with random Met Gala segments. That's funny. Met Gala reactions on YouTube was like when everyone pretended to be a hip hop head because of the Drake versus Kendrick beef. Just waffling for waffling's sake. Maybe it's people trying to make money. They know it's good for the algorithm, and they know it's a topic that's trending and it's going to get views. So, you know, they're just like, oh, Drake and Kendrick beef. Let's discuss about it. Just because it's like trending, it's like. But it's true. Everyone was a hip hop head during the Drake and Kendrick beef, analyzing the Drake and Kendrick beef. Everything that's happened so far with the Drake and Kendrick beef. I'm with Micah here. I totally agree. Even if I don't agree, I respect anyone who articulates their opinion and backs up their thoughts. I'm 100% with you because, like I said, when I say fashion is subjective, I mean in the sense that like people can build their own thoughts and it doesn't have to align with what I think. But if anyone can explain, I always respect that because people don't need to agree with me. It's kind of like what I said earlier. I think there's a beauty in the fact that a lot of people in this chat, I might have opinions that they disagree with because it means it's not an echo chamber. And like I said earlier, it also means that when you're watching the live stream back, you get so much added context because not only are you listening to my opinion, you might be, seeing other people's opinions in the live chat and getting all this information all at once. So no, I think there's a beauty in like people disagreeing, but I think that if you're going to hate on something, at least articulate why though. Articulate why. I've never been more desperate to be a hip hop YouTuber than during the beef. People made so much money though. So I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. People are making so much money. Oh, shout out to Kroll. I was the only fashion related YouTuber I watch. I've been watching for like 3 years now. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I will say that there are, like I mentioned earlier, there are some really, really good fashion YouTubers on the platform. But thank you for watching my content. I really appreciate it. The beef left exposed. They took songs about a closeted. I think Kendrick did take it like 10 steps too far. Like even the fact the music video of Not Like Us came out not too long ago is insane. That's funny. I was moaning about Pharrell's Louis Vuitton stuff on the last stream and saw recently a quote from him saying he isn't a fashion designer and so I can't moan about it anymore. Let's see. AZ says Holomed is too sassy and mean-spirited for me. Get the feeling he's just annoyed he's not involved in the industry as much as he would want, or respect his hustle and work ethic. I think Holomed is just like I like Holomed, by the way. I'm a fan of Holomed. I think that Holomed has a certain tone of voice that I guess for some people is very hit or miss. I do think that in terms of like not being involved in the industry. I think this is something that Luke has alluded to himself in terms of like saying that he feels like he should have more respect in the industry, and like he feels like YouTubers aren't respected. And I was kind of with him on that, because at the end of the day, I'm a fashion YouTuber too. So if he gets respected, I kind of get respected because I'm kind of like tiny compared to Hotler Mode, but by association, I get respected. So, and I could understand where he was coming from, because Hotler Mode gets more views and more engagement, and more people learn about fashion through Hotler Mode than like most, if not all, major fashion magazines, apart from maybe Vogue, in terms of like numbers. But you would see that basically irrelevant fashion magazines have invitations to shows that Hotler Mode wouldn't have invitations to. They'll be invited to resees of clothes that Hotler Mode wouldn't be invited to, which to me personally doesn't make sense. Like if I was a fashion PR, there's no reason why I'm getting irrelevant magazines to come and see my collection over Hotler Mode, because Hotler Mode is disseminating this information to a wider audience. And so I actually want Hotler Mode to see all the details on my clothing, because he's the kind of content creator that talks about that stuff. Most fashion content creators are so surface level. I don't think Hotler Mode is surface level at all. So I think that's where his frustration came from. And I do think that his earlier videos, there was that tone of voice that came from like being pissed off about that. But I think more recently, I think Hotler Mode is way more involved in the industry. I think Hotler Mode has been welcomed in the fashion industry with open arms at this point. So I don't think that's really an issue for Hotler Mode anymore. So I think now it's just more of like a tone of voice thing. So I think that's what it is now. He said, I've never heard ISA irrelevant in my life. Someone said, for red carpet reviews, Luke gives entertainment fashion police vibes, but like if the host knew anything about fashion. Yeah, I mean, so what I appreciate about Hotler Mode is that Hotler Mode, I know, has a deep understanding of fashion history, just by conversations I've had with Hotler Mode. Not many, but I've had a few in person. Also, I know Hotler Mode literally has a library. I know people that are friends with Hotler Mode. I don't know why I keep calling him Hotler Mode. It's weird. Luke. I know people that are friends with Luke, that say that he's really knowledgeable about fashion history and stuff. So what I really appreciate about Hotler Mode is that Hotler Mode makes content that is mainstream, in a sense that most people want to see reviews on like red carpet stuff and like celebrity fashion. But before Luke started making that content, I could never watch anything to do with red carpet content, because I'm someone that I want to learn about fashion and I want insight. And every time I used to watch Fashion Police, it's just like people laughing about, ha 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 ha, her skirt is like this, or ha ha, or like just no context or no understanding about actual fashion. It's also why I find it like I'm rooting for Emma Chamberlain, because she's a YouTuber and she's been accepted by the fashion industry. And like I said, by association, I'm on this platform too. So anyone that wins in fashion on this platform is kind of a win for me, because then if I come next, I feel like I'll be taken more seriously. That being said, it's really hard for me to watch Emma Chamberlain fashion interviews, because she doesn't actually talk about the fashion or ask about the fashion. It's because she doesn't have much knowledge about the fashion. So I hope that Luke becomes huge in the industry. I want Luke to be like hosting for E at the Met Gala and being the one asking the questions with celebrities, because Hotler Mode actually understands the fashion too. So Hotler Mode can add way more context. And I think that would allow the average person watching to understand more about fashion. So that's something I really love about Luke. I think that Luke is actually the person that can change the way like people view fashion in the mainstream, to be fair. Um so yeah. Show Studio, does that, I guess it counts. I guess it counts. I don't think Show Studio is as good as it used to be. I watch Show Studio for like my friends, or like people I know personally, like Hetty, or Josh. So if Hetty and Josh are there, then I'll watch it. But otherwise, because I know they're knowledgeable about fashion and stuff. But if it's not Hetty or Josh on Show Studio, I can't lie, I'm not watching it. Whereas I feel like, because now Show Studio really only have Hetty or Josh as those strong knowledge bases on fashion that host panels. But when it was before, you had Lou Stoppard and you had like Finn McTaggart, and you had like Mima Viglitio. They're like these really knowledgeable people about fashion who had worked in the industry for so long, and like had worked in so many different capacities and stuff. So yeah. Well, let's see. I'm trying to keep up with the comments. Why is it always the white YouTubers who are taken seriously by the industry? No comment. Do you know what it is? So, okay, I know that there are racist people in the fashion industry. I know that to be true. Because I work in the industry and I've seen it with my own eyes. I've heard it. I literally just made a video not too long ago about a Nok Yai being called a cockroach by a photographer. Because she's black. However, I just don't. You can't really stress about those things because if I spend too much time thinking about race, it's just going to consume my mind, and then it will affect the way that I work, and then you just become bitter. So even though I know that yes, racism like may or may not affect me, who knows? You can't prove it. I just try my best not to like dwell on it because I don't think it does me any good. Um, so yeah, there might be a reason why it is specifically the white YouTubers that tend to go big, but who knows? You can't really prove that. That first Lou Stoppard interview with Matthew Williams still makes me laugh to this day. She was so good. Yeah, Lou interviews were amazing. Honestly, they're so good. What happened to Mima? I think Mima just got too busy consulting for major brands and making crazy money. To be fair. Oh, you would be so it's funny. I think there's this assumption that there's an assumption that because the fashion industry is creative and because like there are queer people in fashion and there's most of the men in fashion are gay and all this sort of stuff. I think people assume that like fashion is open-minded, but maybe because I have enough gay friends to know there's so much nuance even in the queer community that I wasn't really a part of or I wasn't that tapped into until I started working in fashion. But like I know so many racist gay white men. So just because they're gay and just because they're queer or open-minded in that sense, people think that they're open-minded in other things, but not really. I remember when I was in CSM and there would be like gay white men who would literally be trying to argue with me unprovoked. Like I'm not even trying to have a conversation about race or oppression or anything. And I would just like say something and they'll be like, I totally understand because, I truly understand your plight as a gay man. Like I truly understand what racism is like because I get prejudice against me because I'm a gay white man. And then I'm just like, okay, that's cool. You do you. I wasn't even trying to have this conversation, but okay. I clearly just wanted to insert yourself and talk about, you just wanted to insert your oppression into the conversation when no one asked you. Um, but yeah, fashion is not my thing is just fashion is not as open-minded as people think. I think people think that people in fashion are so open-minded. They're not. They're really not. They're just not. This is true because fashion is hierarchical and elitist. It means it's going to cross over to race and gender, and it certainly does. It certainly does. By the way, years ago when I found out gay white men were racist, it threw me for a loop. And it's fair enough. It's fair enough because you it's like a thing we do in our minds, right? When I was younger, I probably thought that gay white men weren't racist too because I was just thinking that if you're gay, you've probably been through so much hate or prejudice or like so much homophobia growing up, especially if you don't live in like London or New York, it'll be even worse. But even in really tolerant places, it would still be bad. So I would, in my head, I would just think that if you grew up that way, surely you couldn't be hateful because that's something you can't control. The same thing like race is something you can't control. You can't choose if you're born black or Asian or white. So it's so irrational to hate someone based on something they can't control. Same thing as like someone literally just being attracted to men from birth as a man. So in my head, I just did put my logic together and I was like, yeah, there's no way they could be racist. And then you meet loads of them and you're like, oh, that that ship has sank. That ship completely sank like the Titanic. That ship sank and we never saw it again, like the Titanic. Like that stuff went so far left that like oh god, that's funny. I always assume that people into art of any medium were more open-minded, but are so wrong. No, certainly not. Certainly not. As a gay white man, I completely understand your struggle. I had so many people at CSM tell me that crap. It's so funny. I totally understand your struggle because I just get it. I just totally get it because being a gay white man is just what could be the difference being black and being gay and white. Oh man, CSM is a funny place. Oh man. Once they're on the other side, they don't care. It's not about identities, it's about class. Yeah. Exactly, as if there were no queer black people. I know, right? But it's also funny because so this is like a funny side story. Before I went to CSM, I made friends with this guy. Do I want to say his name? Let me not say his name. But basically, he's gay, he's queer, and he went to CSM and he studied the same course, like fashion journalism, and he was graduating just as I was entering. And so, because I was about to enter, I asked him like, "What tips can you give me before I go to CSM? Like, what are things I should look out for? What are things I should be wary of? What things should I learn? What books should I read? What stuff should I study? What stuff should I work on? All that sort of stuff." So, one of the first things he said was, "Avoid the white gaze," and I didn't know what he was talking about when he said, "Avoid the white gaze." He was like, black gays, fine. Asian gays, fine. But the white gays, run away. I didn't know what he was talking about. And then I went, and then this guy was like, "Oh my God, I understand your plight." And I was like, "Oh, this is what I was being told." I was like, "Oh, this is what he meant." Oh God, that's funny. And a lot of people in the fashion industry are like that. Obviously not my friends. Like Hanan is lovely. Or like Hanan, Understitch, Finn, they're all lovely. But those are my friends. There's a reason why they're my friends. People who are weird and strange and racist, obviously I'm not going to be friends with them. So wait, why does Luke hate the word queer? People are saying the word queer is a slur. Not really. Not in a way that in fashion, I guess we use it. Maybe in wider society, maybe it might be a slur, but not in the way that we use it in fashion. Exactly. UK Black Pride is a thing for a reason. Also, avoid the blacks who don't have black friends. They're usually the worst. Yeah. Oh my God, AZ is bringing these deep convos to the live stream. I genuinely, and I don't know why I do this in my head. Maybe I shouldn't do this, but if I meet a black person that has no black friends, I think there's something wrong with them. I don't know why. I just automatically, if a black person has no black friends, I just think that, and I'm never wrong, by the way. Anytime I've met a black person that doesn't have any black friends, they're always weird. Always, like every time. And I don't know why. I don't even know how to articulate it. Like most black people will know what I'm talking about, but it's weird. Because why do you not have black friends? Like you live in a multicultural, like if you live in London and you have no black friends, that's insane. Do you know how multicultural London is? Like, that's insane. That's actually insane. And I'm honestly never wrong. Like never ever wrong. Like anytime someone has no black friends as a black person, it's like the person is always strange. Always strange. It's so weird. I thought it was only me that thought that. It's good to know that other people think that too. Black person with no black friends equals girl with no girlfriend. I won't explain, y'all know what I got. Oh god, that's funny. I don't even know if it's the same for white people. Like white people in the chat, if someone is white and they don't have any white friends, are they normally weird? I don't think it's the same. 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 I think it's different. I think it's different. My Nigerian roommate when I was in London gave me the skinny on racism and elitism in the gay community. My mind was blown. Yeah. I mean, fat phobia is really like yeah, body issues is like huge in the gay community too. That's like a big thing. Um, so yeah. Luke says there are whites in the chat. There's the urbans. We've got white urbans. Of course we have white urbans. There's loads of white urbans in this chat. Yeah, I think it's different. I think for a white person, if you have no white friends, it probably means you're more open-minded. Because yeah, it probably means you're more open-minded. Whereas I think every time let me just explain why for the non-blacks that don't understand why if a black person has no black friends, it's a red flag. It's because if you're black and you have no black friends, it's either rooted in like self-hate, like you have an issue with like because they always people that are black that have no black friends always say really bad things about black people. So it gives a sense that maybe you were bullied in a school where there were black people, so now you just hate all black people irrationally, or maybe you're a different kind of black. So it's kind of like in the black community, if you're like maybe like a nerd or you're like not into what the typical black person is into, you're kind of ostracized. That does happen sometimes. So then you just hate black people. But I think at a certain age, you need to grow out of that and see that like being black is not a monolith and there's so many different kinds of black people in the world. So I think if you just block your mind to black people, that person either has self-hate or it's just something rooted in self-hate and it manifests itself in the way that they deal with black people, talk to black people, talk about black people. Like you guys will notice it. Now that I've mentioned it, you guys will notice it. You guys will actually notice it. Carl says anyone black friend for white people is a red flag. Oh my god. Wait, Luke, you're Middle Eastern. I didn't even know that. I thought you're white. Not gonna lie. You are white passing, to be fair. Yeah, also, yeah, sometimes the internalized racism comes from the family. That's true. That's true. Because it's like, yeah, their family or just their society makes them feel like they're less than because they're black. So they kind of don't want to hang around other black people because they want to chase what they think is better. It's always rooted in something along those lines. Like Michelle clearly knows what I'm talking about. I'm not black, I'm human. Oh, good. I'm not black, I'm human. I'm a human being. I'm not black. I went out with a white guy who didn't know the jokes about white people not seasoning their food, and my dad was like, "Beloved, he doesn't know any black people then." That's jokes. That's jokes. Urban community has two. Yeah, the urban community on YouTube is very diverse. Very, very diverse community of people. Very, 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 very diverse set of people in this chat. But yeah, the "I'm not black, I'm human" thing is hilarious. I think I know people that have said that actually, and they're the kind of people I'm talking about too. Oh man, that's funny. Can someone in the chat explain to Jake what urban means? Can the urbans explain to Jake what urban is? Did you already mention your opinion on fashion houses using braids as an accessory for the show? Um, I've done it in the past. Um, I've made videos on it in the past. So yeah, I'll leave it there. I don't even know what urban means. I'm just going with it. You guys are gatekeeping urbans. That's funny. I love AZ says secure your white king bag. Seasoning can be learnt. Money lasts forever. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Money lasts forever. But he can learn to season his food. Oh god. People also don't talk about classism in the black community. I come from an uppity black religious family. The self-re-education and learning high school as well. Oh yeah. I mean, geez, like let's not even talk about the classism in the black community, because I think wider society just thinks that black culture is like a monolith. So like, for example, I'll give you a big example of something I had to unlearn growing up. So growing up in, because I grew up in Nigeria and also in a Nigerian household and around Nigerians have this thing where they think that they're better than everyone else. And so it gets really toxic. So like, for example, Nigerians are so, like, they're so bad when it comes to Caribbeans. They're so bad. They talk about Caribbeans like Caribbeans don't go to school, Caribbeans don't work, Caribbeans don't get good jobs, Caribbeans don't care about their futures, Caribbeans don't care about their kids, Caribbeans always sleep around, Caribbeans have kids all over the place. Like, it's so bad. Like, and so when you grow up in that environment, it's just like all this just info that you're taking in. And then when I was well, obviously when I got older, I unlearned all of that crap. But it's like that's part of the classism, because like a lot of Nigerians look down on Caribbeans because they just think that they're better. It's kind of like they don't even want to be around Caribbeans. If you date a Caribbean in certain Nigerian communities, it's like frowned upon because it's seen as like you're marrying like a you're marrying someone who's like lesser than you into the family. It's like it's so toxic. It's so toxic. Said Nigerians hate us. I didn't know this. It depends on the kind of Nigerian. The kind of Nigerians that like grow up in, I don't know, like the diaspora, obviously don't care. It's more like the old, like I'm talking like Nigerian grandmas. It's like old school Nigerians that think like that. Like my parents don't think like that. It's more like, do my grandparents think? My grandparents probably think like that. So it's like my grandparents' generation. They smoke marijuana. That's the exact type of thing an African parent will say. You just want to be going around with those jamos smoking marijuana. That's what they do. No, it's bad. It's bad. Like classism in the black community is 100% a big thing. Big thing. big thing. It's also vice versa too. Yeah, it is both ways. By the way, it happens both ways. Um, that's to talk about Africans back in the Caribbean community I grew up in. Was told not to date Nigerian, only Ghanaian. Yeah, it happens both ways, but it's definitely a thing. It's definitely a thing. Yeah, most older West Africans hate Caribbeans. I can confirm. So that's what I mean. Like you have to unlearn like all that toxic stuff. So it's like it's very yeah. A lot of communities have their own toxic things. Every community has their toxic thing. I mean, go to India and look at the caste system, which is insane. Like their caste system scares me. Um, the fact that like your social mobility in India is tied to like your caste and like your skin tone a lot of the times is like wild. So yeah, every community has their like thing. I just hope that as human beings, we all progress from all of this backward thinking and we all just kind of move past it. But I'm only one person. So yeah, it's the same thing, by the way. There's a similar phenomenon with Nigerian Americans and African Americans. It gives model minority. Yeah. That's definitely a thing. That's definitely a thing. That's definitely a thing. Um, yeah, 100% a thing. Where Nigerians are kind of like Nigerians are like, oh, they kind of like gaslight African Americans sometimes, where they're like, oh, we're black and we do this. Why can't African Americans do this? And it's like, mate, like, okay, maybe you don't have opportunity in America. However, you grew up in Nigeria where you were championed and there wasn't much racism, so you didn't grow up with like how racism can affect you, so you don't have to think about it growing up, and you probably went to a really good school, and you're in a culture where people push education because it's literally Africa. You're not being pushed down by certain groups of people. So obviously when you come to America as a Nigerian, you come with a very different mindset, but they almost like gaslight other people for not having that same mindset. It's like, how do you expect them to have that mindset though, when they've had a different upbringing and grown up a different way? That model minority thing does annoy me sometimes. It is quite annoying. Yes, Rachel, we definitely hope for a better future across the board. The current colorism debate happening on Love Island, which means I should tell you everything about how backwards that thinking is. It bums me out. Yeah, it's annoying. It's very annoying. Very annoying. We all dressed in 1999. In 1999, Raf, we all the same to me. Oh god. We all need to just get along and love each other. We all have way more in common than different, regardless of race. That shit should be irrelevant. I totally agree. I really wish it was irrelevant, but unfortunately it's not, because so many people are still backwards in a way that they think. So yeah. Yeah, the systemic and generational harm of racism in the US is mad. And and this goes back to like the unlearning that I had to do like growing up as an adult, because I find myself educating so many Nigerians when they start the whole, oh, African Americans this or whatever, because it's like, mate, like if you talk about the history of what like African Americans, right, had to fight through. Are you insane? Like the fact that when slavery ended, the government just found different ways to kind of perpetuate slavery, but do it legally. So a big example of how they did it was when they abolished slavery, they put into the constitution that basically if you're a felon, then you have no right to vote. And so what do? They just disproportionately police black areas and disproportionately arrest black people. And a lot of the prisons are privatized, so they actually have to hit quotas because a lot of the prisoners work for corporations in prison. They use like basically prison labor. And a lot of companies rely on that prison labor because they sign private contracts with these private prisons. So there's an incentive to just start arresting people for no reason, and there's an incentive to just lock people away or even plant evidence to arrest people. You do not have that baggage if you grow up in Nigeria. You do not have to face that if you grow up in Nigeria. You don't. You just don't. So it's like there's like so much stuff where it's like I can't even get into it because there's so much stuff. There's so much stuff. Like I can't even get into it. There's so much stuff. Today's stream is dead ass the mass education of urbans. I know, right? So the crazy thing is that do you know what's so sensational about the American Constitution is that if you're a felon, you can't vote because the thinking when they put that constitution into play was that we're just going to arrest loads of black people. And so loads of black people won't have the right to vote. And therefore, black people won't really have a say in like where the government goes or who's in power in the government. However, they never would have thought that a black person would ever become a president of the United States, which is why there's so much gray area when it comes for it's very clear in terms of felons voting, but it's not very clear in terms of a felon running for president, which is why Donald Trump can have a criminal record and run for president because they never would have thought in a million years that a black person would be running for president, which is why it's like that. Hence why Donald Trump can be a felon and run for president. It's quite interesting actually when you think about it. I wish we could all get along like we used to. In middle school, I wish I could bake a cake filled with rainbows and smiles and everyone would eat and be happy. I totally agree. I totally agree. What does you when you say, or going from being enslaved to having no other opportunity, so you just become a sharecropper on the land of the person. Yeah, like that's something I also have to explain to a lot of Nigerians. So like a lot of Nigerians, when they move to the US, they come from families where they might have owned a farmland or they own land or their family like has a business or like all this sort of stuff. But if you think about slavery, like these like slaves had nothing. Like when I say they're starting from the ground up, they're starting from ground zero, like from from deeper than the ground. Like even the fact that certain like African Americans are so successful. Like you go to Atlanta and there's so many successful African Americans is insane. Like where African Americans are starting from compared to like people that immigrate to the US sometimes is like insane. Like if you actually think about it, is actually insane. Like if you just abolish slavery and then you're like, okay, you're no longer slaves. Okay, find something to do with no education, no training to do any job really, no ownership of land, no ownership of property really. They've changed the constitution to basically mean that like the way that this let me not say the system, but like there's an incentive for police to arrest you and give you a criminal record for damn near no reason because there's money involved. And when you're a felon, obviously it's harder, even harder to get a job. Like if you add all those factors together, it's like, yo, it's insane, 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 insane. Reader saying that's not true. People who wrote the Constitution did not plan on mass incarcerating black people, but people who manipulated and abused the law did. Um, I don't know, man. I don't have that much faith in just American history to think that, oh, they're so great that they had no intentions of doing that. That being said, that wasn't really the main conversation. The main conversation was like me talking about how I have to educate a lot of West Africans specifically on why they're gaslighting African Americans sometimes. Um, so kind of like talking about the Constitution and how it works against mass incarcerating black people is just like a point I use in educating West Africans as to why like certain things happen or why they're viewed a certain way. I finished that. Africans are very successful education and socially in France. That's one of the reasons for the insane racism here. Damn, 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 damn. Yeah, it's kind of what Ronnie is saying. Nothing, no capital, no bodily autonomy, nothing. It's insane. It's actually insane. It's insane. My favorite part of these streams is when we talk about the global and political state of the world. Yeah. Colonization did a number on the entire diaspora. We should never be at each other's throats when we have a common enemy. It's facts though. It's fact. I was so happy when because I think something that I think will end, well, not okay, not end racism, that's a stretch. Something I think will maybe give a lot of people that are racist a better understanding of life is things like, for example, France has a lot of African countries like in a chokehold. And I genuinely think that if a lot of these francophone African countries all had a coup, like a military coup, and they all broke off from France, kind of like Niger, France would be in stitches. That all of a sudden France would just start disintegrating, and French people were like, oh my god, like we actually need the Africans, like oh my god, all their money. We thought we were doing them a favor, but actually they're the reason why our country is like staying afloat because we get so much money and we extract so many resources from all these African countries. I don't think the day-to-day like French person realizes that their country is literally surviving off the back of like loads of African countries. And if like all of them just said one day we're going to have a military coup, F France, kind of like Niger, and we're just going to have trade deals with different countries, they're gonna they're gonna be like, oh, or like exactly like Belgium, they're gonna be like, whoa. All of a sudden they're gonna be like, oh. So I definitely think that that's definitely something that needs to happen. Um, that's definitely something that needs to happen. Tariq, unfortunately, with the African countries, it has to be a military coup because otherwise you don't have the power to reject France. You need to have military power to be able to reject France, and France can't do anything about it. Unfortunately, it's like even my country, Nigeria, the only way Nigeria can ever change is if there's a military coup. Because Nigeria is run by like the British government mixed with a bit of China. So every time, like I'm someone that's lived in Nigeria, so I've seen it with my own eyes. And people talk about it all the time. Like every time Nigeria's slightly thriving, suddenly weapons get given to the enemies of the people in power by Western countries, and they just conveniently support certain people that they want to put in power, and then before you know it, that person's in government. um, so that's why if you want to like reject certain Western countries completely, you have to go the route of like military coups. It's a really unfortunate because bad things happen when military coups happen, obviously. Like people die and stuff. It's really, really terrible and horrific. But that's Tarek, this is why it has to happen that way. Um yeah, because geez. Like people always talk about it when I was growing up in Nigeria. I remember my grandma telling me about how um my grandma is telling me about how there was someone in power in Nigeria called General Murtala Mohammed. And when he was in power, the currency of Nigeria was so good, it was 1 naira to £1. And basically, I think he got assassinated. And the person he got assassinated by was literally supported by the British government. So they're like, how dare you thrive on our watch? We need to have control over Nigeria so we can continue to extract your resources for, cheap prices and cheap costs. That's why I don't even racist people in the UK, they make me laugh because I'm Nigerian and I know how many like the resources that the British Empire extracted from Nigeria. So the only reason why the UK is like afloat, a big reason is my country. So I don't feel bad at all for using all of the resources in the UK. I don't care. I laugh in the faces of British people that are racist because I'm just like, mate, it's my country as much as it is yours. Trust me. You think it's your country, but it's your country as much as it is mine. Trust me. Or Rachel says it's something difficult about fragrance. The entire industry is based on a violent colonial value extraction system. Well, the great Indonesian, Haitian, etc. perfumers. Yeah, that's 100% true. They extract all the resources from, the Egypts and places like that and pay little. And then the perfumers from there aren't taken seriously. It's really bad. It's really bad. Yeah, exactly. The sheer amount of gold taken from the continent. I don't feel bad at all. Oh my God. Like, if an English person tells me go back to your country, it's like, this is my country, though. I technically own it because half of the stuff here is like extracted from my country anyway. Is that powered by, like, the UK is powered by Nigeria? Oh God. Oh God, that's funny. Luke said it. So in conclusion, the white man is the devil. No, the white man is not the devil. Certain white people though. Certain empires and certain white people. It's like, mate, Britain is low key powered by Nigeria. So take a chill pill, like chill out, mate. But I do think Brits are starting to realize it, though. I think that with Brexit, a lot of the skilled workers in the UK left. So we have a shortage of a lot of skilled work, which is why a lot of my siblings have been given permanent residencies in the UK because they're like nurses and engineers and stuff, and the UK has a shortage of like that skilled work. Um, so there we go. But I'm also with human youth, which is why I said it's not the white man that's evil, because colonialism and imperialism, it's not just white people that did it, right? Um, so yeah, I think the white man is evil is kind of like a reductive conversation. I know people say that, but it's kind of reductive. Um, but yeah, that's a whole conversation for another day. Like whole other day. Britain has more ex-colonies than France. The Commonwealth is a scam. Yeah, the Commonwealth is funny. AZ said that's why I voted reform. He said he voted reform. Oh my gosh. To be fair, I voted for Labour, but I don't, like I told you guys, I don't care about politics. I think they're all as bad as each other. Labour. I used to be like a Lib Dem. I used to like Lib Dem agreed with my social political views a lot of the time, but then the last election I voted for Lib Dem and they didn't keep to any of their promises, which I should have known. It's politics. They're politicians. They lie. Um, so I just think that they're all the same. I voted Labour tactically because I just wanted the Conservatives. I just wanted a change in government. But I think Labour, Lib Dem, Conservative, I just think they're all as bad as each other. I think they're all as bad. They're all corrupt. They're all bad. They all lie. I just think they're all bad. Oh, Luke says Lib Dem swept my constituency. Interesting. Yeah, I totally agree. Reducing it to quite literally white and black is a tool used to further divide instead of starting actual conversation about important issues. Yeah. I'm with you there. I totally agree. Wow, this chat is educated. Wow. This is the audience I've been able to grow. That's insane. That's actually insane. I love that for this chat. I actually love that for this chat. They're as bad as each other spiel lets the truly inept politicians off the hook. I'm not letting them off the hook. I'm saying that they're horrible. I'm not letting them off the hook at all. I'm genuinely saying that they're all incompetent. Like, they're actually really incompetent. And it's just like, I don't know. They're just like, look at how incompetent the UK government is. Like, we Boris Johnson pushed for Brexit, right? He, Nigel Farage, all these people pushed for Brexit. When we had the referendum, all of those people ran away and disappeared into the sky, and we didn't hear of them. Then David Cameron basically stepped down because it wasn't really like leading a Brexit government was not what he bargained for. So he left the post. And then what was her name? Was it Theresa May came in? And Theresa May came in just because she wanted to be prime minister. She had no plan whatsoever. Dumb as a rock, like stupid as a rock. No plan. You want to lead the country in a Brexit UK, and you don't even have any plan for how you would lead that. You don't know what policies you're fighting for. Like, why are you the prime minister? Why? And then she made an absolute fool of herself. She left. Then it was Boris Johnson, who's an absolute joke, who basically was so bad he got kicked out by his peers. then, then we had Liz Truss, who basically destroyed the whole economy. Like, she basically single-handedly destroyed the economy. And then we just had Rishi Sunak. Like, so I'm not letting them off the hook. I'm saying that they're as bad as each other because they're not. I don't even know what qualifications you need to be a prime minister. Like, our prime ministers are so dumb. It's like they're so stupid. Like, they're pushing for something that they don't have a plan for. Like, Boris Johnson pushed for Brexit without any understanding of like what trade deals he would want, what trade deals are more important for the economy, what plan he has in place to make sure that the economy thrives post Brexit, which is why, first of all, it took so long to even secure the trade deals. And then, even when they secured the trade deals, Boris didn't even secure the trade deals that he promised. Like, a good example is like, how much of the sea is British territory, which is why all the fishermen were complaining, because a lot of territory that, they were promised, they didn't get that because Boris couldn't negotiate a good enough deal. So why was he pushing for it if he didn't have a plan for it? But that, like, our leaders, they're so daft. They're so dumb. Like, I don't even understand who allowed them to become prime minister. I don't even understand why they're prime minister. I just don't know. Like, our prime ministers are so stupid. And like, just because they go to Oxford and they went to Eton, people think they're smart, but they're actually stupid. Like, they have no intelligence. Like, seriously. Our prime ministers are so stupid. Like, all of them. Starting from like Theresa May, all of them in a row. Like Theresa May, Liz Truss, Boris Johnson, they're all stupid. Like, they're so dumb. So anyway, I'm saying all of it to say that I don't let the politicians off the hook. I've just been watching everything that prime ministers have been doing over and over again to know that they're not intelligent and they just don't have a plan. They push for things that they don't even have a plan for, and they don't even understand how they're going to put that in place. They just don't know. But people just assume because they went to Oxford, they must be smart, but they're not. So yeah, I don't let the politicians off the hook. I just have no interest in. I just don't have any interest in any of it because I just don't think any of them know what they're doing, and they've proven to us that they don't know what they're doing. Someone's saying I'm complaining about the UK government being dumb. There's just no way for Keir Starmer's government to be worse than the last 5. It just isn't possible at this point. We shall see. I'll be watching, but I don't have much faith in any government, to be honest, in the UK. Yeah, Liz Truss couldn't pass her probation period. How long was Liz Truss in government again? Was it? I know it was less than 2 months. Wait, let me Google it. How long was Liz Truss in government? Liz Truss Prime Minister. So Liz Truss was prime minister for 49 days. She truly didn't pass her probation period. Probation period is 6 weeks, right? She didn't even do a probation period, and she in 49 days, she's so incompetent that in 49 days she managed to decimate the economy and destroy the pound in 49 days. Like, those are the leaders we have. These are the supposedly smart people that are supposed to like lead the country and know what's best for the country, apparently. This is our government. So when I say I'm not letting them off the hook, I'm not. It's just that none of them know what they're doing. I don't think Keir Starmer knows what he's doing either. So yeah. Got to speak at the Queen's funeral though. Exactly. She crashed the pound to almost $1. Facts. And then our inflation went through the roof, and then people lost their houses. This is how daft Liz Truss is. So Liz Truss decimated the economy so bad that the pound was level with dollars, and then the central bank had to get involved, and then the interest rate went insane, and then the interest rate was so high that people couldn't afford their mortgages, and then people lost their houses. So because a woman was in government for 49 days, so many people lost their houses. Can you imagine that? People lost their houses because of decisions made by some idiot who was only in government for 49 days. And guess what? When you've been the prime minister, if in the UK, I think you get like a yearly allowance of 150k or something like that, just as like I don't even know, like a severance package or something like that, just for being a prime minister. So she came, decimated the economy. She's the reason why people lost their houses. People's mortgages went through the roof, and she gets 150k for life every year. What? They should be extracting money from her. She should pay a higher tax rate than all of us for doing that. She should be paying 60% tax rate, like off rip. What? Like what? Our government is a joke. It's funny. It's funny. The pound is recovering, but it hasn't fully recovered. But it's not it's recovering. It hasn't fully recovered though. Yeah, she does have free security too. She does. She does. This is an era of no shame for UK politicians, especially Tories. Oh, God. Oh, that was a while ago. I was in the UK when Blair was on the way out. Oh, Tony Blair. Oof, we don't talk about Tony Blair. Tony Blair is somewhat of a war criminal. Very controversial. But yeah, that was a while ago. Tony Blair, wow. I haven't heard about Tony Blair for a while at all. Luke says they're all clapped as well. No attractive prime ministers. I don't even know how anyone can trust Boris Johnson. That man, how many? I swear, Boris Johnson. I remember reading something where Boris Johnson has like 5 baby mums, and every single baby mum is because he cheated. So he was like married to one woman, and he had a child with that woman, and then he cheated on that woman with another woman who he got pregnant, who he then married to leave that past woman, and then he did that another like 3 or 4 times in a row. How can you trust someone like that to be the prime minister? How can anyone trust someone like that? I don't understand. Like, how can you trust someone like that that just constantly cheats on his wives? Like almost every single marriage he has been initiated by cheating. How can you? I don't understand people, man. I don't. Tony Blair's pivot into being a quasi-motivational speaker is quite funny. War criminal to podcast guest grift is wild. That's crazy. That's actually crazy. How can Luke say Boris Johnson is drowning in Yash? Boris Johnson is a gallus. It must be the power and the upper class society thing. I'm convinced, yeah, that in Britain it's all about class. So long as you're the right class, it doesn't really matter how you look. Because Boris Johnson is fugly. Um, Boris Johnson looks like every time I saw Boris Johnson on TV, he looks like he just fought someone, slept, woke up, and then went to like give a speech. His hair was a mess. He looks like Boris Johnson looks like he doesn't shower. Like Boris Johnson looks like the kind of person that showers once a week. You know, there's British people like, oh mate, like I only shower once a week. Like I shower on Sundays. Like Boris Johnson looks like he takes one shower a week. Like he literally looks like someone that only showers once a week. Like he cheats on women. He looks like he showers once a week. I don't. Why would anyone want someone like that to be the prime minister? I don't get it. I don't get it. Yeah, Boris Johnson looks like he just got out of a rugby scrum. Oh god, he does. He looks like with his hair compressed in the middle. He does look like he just came out of a rugby scrum. That is hilarious. So, okay, one of my aunties, her conspiracy theory is that it's not really a conspiracy theory, it's just her guess, is that basically Boris Johnson presents himself as really like stupid, or presents himself as like really unconsidered, and it's all like a tactic to basically make people at ease around him, and he's like really cunning, and it's all part of his like master plan to kind of like trick people into thinking that he's not as smart as he is, or he's not as intelligent as he is. So it's like kind of part of his game to kind of look scruffy and to look unkept. Is kind of like part of his thing. That's basically what she says, which I find kind of funny. Yeah, I watch rugby, not as much as I watch other sports, but I do watch rugby. That's crazy that you played semi-professionally. That's insane. What position did you play? I played for I played for I played rugby a very short span in my life, only for 2 years, because I went to a school that was really good at rugby. Like we were literally sponsored by Costa, which was insane. And I wasn't good enough to make the first team because I literally hadn't played rugby my whole life. And I was going to a school. I was going to like a school where people played rugby for like Canterbury that were on the first team of my school. But I was on the second team and I was a winger. And I did hoop, but my rugby was a side quest. So I was a winger, and basically I found rugby so fun until we played this like team. I can't remember what the score was called. I think it was called like King's Canterbury. If you're a rugby player, you might know it. But we played this school called King's Canterbury, and they had so many England internationals on their team, like so many. Like their second row played for England, their winger played for England. Like basically half of their team was the current like England team. And I was having so much fun, being on the wing, just pacing people and, just like, yeah, it's a private school. It is very much a private school. Pacing people, doing the most, scoring tries, because we were playing against like schools that weren't that good. And then we played against King's Canterbury. And like this guy, all of them were huge, by the way, because they're all like basically pro players. Um, and they were huge but fast. So all of them were massive, and everyone on their team was faster than me. So I remember getting the ball, and I was running on the wing, and I was running and I was running. And because I was so used to just like pacing anyone, I was just like, okay, standard. I'm just going to run on the wing. I'm going to pace everyone. I'm going to score a try. And this guy tackled me so hard that I couldn't breathe for like a good minute. Like I couldn't even breathe. I felt like my ribs were smashed into my lungs. It literally felt like someone just shattered my ribs into my stomach. And that was the last time I played rugby. That was the last time I played. I never played rugby again. That was it for me. That was the last time I was like, yeah, I am not playing the sport ever again. Like, what? That was so painful. I could not breathe. I literally thought there was something wrong. I was literally gasping for air. Like, I actually couldn't breathe. Water says it hurts twice as much when you're not ready. Yeah, because I just wasn't expecting it. Like this guy smashed into my chest, like like clattered me onto the ground. Like you know when you're running with the ball and someone tackles you so hard, the ball falls out of your hands. It must have looked so funny to the people that were watching it. I was like, no, fuck that. I'm a basketball player. Fuck that. Hell no. Hell no. Rugby looks so violent. This is coming from someone who grew up playing football and various other contact sports growing up. So the thing about, I think American football looks violent. I've never played American football, but because you guys have pads, Americans be smashing heads together. In rugby, there are rules, so you can't tackle someone's neck. It has to be like below the neck. Which is why rugby players are normally good at like tackling legs or the chest. However, we're humans, so you might be trying to dodge someone, and someone might be going to tackle you, but then in the process of you moving, they end up like tackling your neck and basically choke slamming you to the ground by mistake with full power and full force. And that's how people get spinal. That's how people get spinal injuries and they never walk again, or their neck gets snapped, or they have a broken neck. Or so yeah, rugby has the injuries in rugby are gory. Like some of the injuries I've seen are like insane. I've seen some crazy injuries in rugby. Honeypip says rugby is a bit more violent. Maybe because I've played rugby and I'm from a country where we kind of watch rugby. Um, so yeah, maybe that's why I just think that American football is more violent, because I don't have a lot of experience with it. And when I watch it, you just see these players just like run into each other head first. It's scary. I'm thinking like, oh my god, CTE. Like, like the CTE scares me. The brain damage. Oh my gosh. Cambridge Uni rugby is a different level of competitive. Yeah. Aren't most of the England rugby team who won the World Cup living with Alzheimer's? Yeah. I think now the whole CTE thing is becoming a bigger conversation in rugby, which is a good thing, because like I've told you, all those tackles are being smashed on the ground and your head hitting the ground with no padding or anything, or at least in the US they have helmets, but in rugby your head just smashes on the ground constantly, or someone tries to tackle your chest, you move slightly, and then they end up tackling your head. Yeah, all that sort of stuff is a recipe for disaster long term. Like you're gonna have like the brain injuries are scary. I don't know anything about rugby except the players are hotties. Rugby players are just massive, like just all muscle, just like huge. Like rugby players are scary. They spend half of their time eating. No, they spend half of their time eating, a quarter of their time training rugby, and and the rest of the time in the gym. Fashion is my sport. Exactly. That's the sport we love here. Fashion. That's the sport we are about here. We all talk about fashion. Speaking of sport, I high key have sincere problems with breaking being considered a sport for the Olympics. You know what? Let me show you guys something very interesting because I'm working on so many videos in the background. One of the videos I'm working on is I went to Paris with Nike for this event where they were doing like their product launches in Paris, and I got to interview one of the break dancers for the Olympics, and I was kind of asking her what break dancing means for the fact it's in the Olympics and stuff. So I actually want to play that interview for you guys because I think it's interesting, and I think after that interview, I shall take my leave. So yeah, let's see if I can find that interview. But I think it's really interesting. But I will drop the full vlog later. You says name drop counter 12. That's funny. Am I not allowed to describe things anymore? Name drop counter. That's funny. Let me see. Is that the video? Let me see if it's the right one. Okay, I found it. Cool. It's unedited though, so it might be a bit weird and the colors might be a bit odd. But let me see. The colors might be a bit strange, guys. Okay, so this is the interview I did. Let's see if I can play this. Wait, did someone say they can't hear anything? Can you not? Can you guys hear the audio? Can you guys not hear it? Oh, that's a shame. That's so weird. Why can't you hear it? That's so strange. That's so strange. Wait, let me see if I can fix that because that's really odd. Someone said it's giving silence. I might have to let me quickly upload the video to YouTube and then if I play it through YouTube, like a YouTube link, let's see if it works. Because I actually want you guys to watch the video because I think it's actually quite interesting, like what she was saying about like just breakdancing in general. But anyway, going back to answer your question while we wait for that to upload. Yeah, I think it's really interesting that breakdancing is now like an Olympic sport. Obviously, there have been mixed reactions to it being an Olympic sport. What I do think is interesting is like the technology that a lot of brands have, put through because of it. So a good example is when I went for the Nike thing, they were talking about the technology of the breakdancing clothing. It's breakdancing specific. So they have these frictionless tracksuits that reduce friction so that when breakers are spinning and sliding, there's nothing that stops them and they can slide easier. And like all this like really interesting technology and like the fabrics they were using was really, really cool. And that's also why I want you to watch that video because I asked her about like what she thinks. Oh, people are talking about CT and American football still. Bernard, get off the mute button. Anytime, anytime something is muted, people say Bernard Arnault is at work. Guys, the video is uploading. It's on 40%, so we'll be there soon. We shall be there soon. Let me see if I can show you guys the stuff. Actually, the like Nike B-Boy collect because it was actually the first B-Boy specific collection ever in the history of B-Boy, which is crazy because I think b-boying has been around for so long. How are they only just making like clothing specific for breakdancing? Like that's so weird. It honestly like it really shows that there's so many things in fashion that are untapped and need to be like explored. Tear resistant durag so you can headspin and not worry about the waves. They need to make those. Like this was the shoe that Nike released, which was basically the first like breakdancing shoes ever, like specifically for breakdancing, which obviously the Olympic athletes are going to be wearing, like the Nike athletes anyway. Um, so there's like these shoes, obviously the clothing. Oh, they didn't even talk about the clothing. That's a shame. But yeah, also the clothing collection too. It's like a huge thing. The Puma's back, the Shelter is back, the Summer's back, track jacket's back. Why not breakdancing? Yeah. What do you guys feel about breakdancing being an Olympic sport? Do you guys have any thoughts about that? I'm researching shoewear origins and I see a lot of unbranded shoes and the latter on Converse and Adidas Superstars. Interesting. So that's just the same construction they use for 400 plus sneakers. I have to look into it, but there'll be minute details that means it's fine tuned for breakdancing, of course. I'd have to look into it because I haven't looked into this footwear deeply. Because when I went for the event, they hadn't unveiled the footwear; they only unveiled the clothing collection. So I got to speak to like the designer from Nike who like did the whole thing. Um, so yeah, that was cool. B-boy is an Olympic sport. Something I also noticed earlier is when I put the audio wasn't there, but when I put the video from my laptop onto the screen, it wasn't jittering. So I think I've cracked the code in terms of the stop motion when I'm reviewing runway shows is to download the video and then upload it from my laptop rather than doing it off of YouTube. Interesting. You learn something new every day. So that's the silver lining in the fact that there was no audio. AZ says, I hate breakdancing being an Olympic sport, same way I hate skateboarding being a sport, because they're not, it's a way of life, a form of creative expression, a culture, not a sport. Yeah, yeah, I guess a lot of sports people would say is a way of life though. Like people would say that football is a culture and a way of life or basketball, but it's not the same. Like skateboarding is like, yeah, it's like a way of life in the sense that football isn't. Because in football, you're kind of fans watching the professionals. In skateboarding, everyone is skating together, the pros and the amateurs and stuff. That's what makes it more of a communal vibe. Same thing with breakdancing. It's a very different relationship to you play a sport, but then you also watch the best of the best do it. You don't play basketball with LeBron James. Like I'm not out here playing basketball with LeBron James and Kevin Durant. Like KD. Don't know if it should be categorized as a sport. It's a dance style. Skateboarding should be Olympics and they brought flag American football back. Yeah, I guess skateboarding being in the Olympics makes sense in the sense of because when I was younger, obviously I used to skate, so I used to watch the X Games, and I used to be a big fan of people like Sandro Diaz and stuff. Um, and I guess it's just giving more legitimacy to like skateboarding as a sport because Olympics is obviously one of the biggest competitions in the world. So I guess in terms of recognition of skateboarding as being like something that can be elite and it's not just like a bunch of miscreants just roaming around the roads. I guess in that sense it's standardized skateboarding. Um so yeah, I guess it's good in that sense. It's kind of like the X Games but on a bigger stage. Olympics is trying to grab some of that Red Bull Dance Clash money. Yeah, skateboarding in the X Games was lit. Do you guys remember when because the X Games, I wasn't only skateboarding I was watching, there was also like BMXing, and then there was rollerblading in the X Games, and there were these Japanese guys I remember. I can't remember their names. They were like brothers, I think. There were these Japanese brothers that absolutely dominated rollerblading. I can't remember their names, but they used to destroy everyone. That was a good time back then. That was like I feel like that was the gold generation of like the X Games. That was on like everyone used to watch the X Games. I wonder, do the X Games even still run? I don't even know. See people doing like backflips, double backflips on their dirt bikes and stuff. That stuff was cool. Is Micah still at his barbecue? No one knows. It's a mystery, dummy. Oh gosh, that's funny. Is Micah still at his barbecue? Ah. Also, guys, my YouTube video has uploaded, but it's processing. I forgot that, yeah, even though my videos can upload quickly, the processing takes forever. So we'll see. If it hasn't processed in the next 5 minutes, then I'm gonna just have to hop off the live stream, unfortunately. What do I think about Paul George to the Sixers? Um, I don't really know, to be fair. I just think any team with Embiid on it is just not going to win anything, like a championship or whatever. They're going to do well in the regular season. Joel Embiid is going to be an MVP candidate, and he's going to choke in the playoffs, and it's just going to be the same story over and over again. Because it's like Jimmy Butler with Embiid. It's kind of like same level of player. Like Paul George is like all-star, kind of like really good offensive type player. That's basically what Jimmy Butler was when Jimmy Butler was basically carrying, like literally carrying. Why is Funny Bibs laughing at the Sixers? The technology and fashion alone, there's so much to explore and invent. Go for the breakdancing, it's athletic. Yeah. I mean, breakdancing is up Nike Street because it is very much athletic. It's like jumps and, turns and flips and all that sort of stuff. Jimmy's stuck in Miami purgatory right now. Pray for my boy. Yeah, Disco's like, stop. Why are you laughing at Philly? Shout out to Philly. Oh, is it because I said it? Oh, in terms of like Paul George, yeah. Paul George is always hurt. Embiid is a choker. And Embiid is always injured too, actually. Embiid is like always injured. So Embiid is always going to be injured. Paul George is probably going to get injured. Like, I don't see that team going anywhere. Like, I just don't see it. Which is sad because they're talented, but hey. But yeah, the NBA is interesting. What I'm looking forward to is the Olympics, like basketball Olympics. I'm really looking forward to it because the USA lost the FIBA championship and I watched almost all the games in the last FIBA championship. I I I always want the USA to bring their best players to any basketball tournament. And if they don't, I want them to lose, because it's almost like they're not taking the world seriously when it comes to basketball, or they're not they're taking the rest of the world for granted. So the USA sent their C team to the FIBA World Cup and they got whooped. They got beaten by Lithuania, they got beaten by Germany, they got beaten by Canada. They came like 7th in the FIBA World Cup with all their NBA players, but it's because it's the C team and they took it for granted. Like the rest of the world is catching up in basketball. So with the Olympics, they've sent the USA Avengers. They've got like LeBron James, Joel Embiid. They've got Anthony Davis, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, all on the same team. So I'm very interested to see how they do. I expect the USA to win this one because now they've actually sent their like proper team, like their A team. But I just want to see, like, is it close? Are the games going to be close? How is France going to do? I think France has a really good team. I think Canada has a sensational team. Canada can definitely beat them again. But if anyone is going to beat the USA, it's going to be Canada or France. I don't think anyone else can beat the USA, but Canada or France. So it'll be really fun just seeing like who wins the Olympics basketball. But I wanted to go, like, to watch it in Paris. Like I was trying to get Olympic tickets for either the finals or the semi-finals for either men or women in Olympics basketball, because just a train away. But when I saw the prices, I was like, I will pass. Like, that's a hard damn pass. I saw the prices. I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna watch it on TV. Like, hell no. You guys are crazy. These guys are trying to tell me it's 500 euros for the Olympic basketball final. Are you crazy? 500 euros? Hell no. Hell no. Why would you go to willingly get overpriced bed bugs and a heat stroke? Oh my gosh, that's funny. Oh my god. Oh, someone was asking me what I think about the Louis Vuitton like trays. Um I think, let me see if I can find those. Let's see. Because I'm not sure how many of you guys know this. Okay, yeah, cool. So it's on Hypebeast. Cool. So for guys that don't know, obviously LVMH is one of the like big sponsors of the Olympics. There was a stream where we looked at all the sponsors, especially when we were talking about like Berluti designing the French Olympic uniforms. So obviously because LVMH is sponsoring it, that all their brands are basically involved in all the four corners of the Olympics. So they have these very interesting like Louis Vuitton designed trays that they're going to use to present all the medals, and then also these uniforms that were designed by Louis Vuitton too, that the medal bearers will be wearing. So a lot of people have just been talking about it because it's kind of like a big talking point, kind of just like Louis Vuitton making the trays for the medals. I think it'll be kind of cool if, like, because normally when people win these medals at Olympics, they come with these really fancy cases. It'll be interesting to see that the cases are made, they're made with like Louis Vuitton luggage or something, like specialized medal holders. That'll be cool. Yeah, the Air France looking uniforms, exactly those. Exactly those. Carl says, I feel like it's try hard promo. I don't like it. I do think that everything they're going to do in the Olympics will kind of be try hard promo, because at the end of the day, they're sponsoring it because they just want to slap LVMH stuff on everything else. And if you're not an official sponsor of the Olympics, you're not allowed to advertise during the Olympics. So they're going to have a field day just being the only ones that are just advertising everywhere. So yeah, there will be a lot of advertising that will be very try hard and forceful. But I guess that's why they wanted to sponsor the Olympics, to do exactly that. It does look like blatant promotion. Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. But I'm interested to see how many more things LVMH kind of sticks their paws into. Like, I just want to see how many more things and what brand is going to design what and for who and where and what events are going to happen during the Olympics. I probably won't be in Paris during the Olympics because I feel like Paris during the Olympics is a disaster. Like, Paris is so small. I don't think Paris is ready for the Olympics, truly. Like, Paris is a tiny place. Even when Fashion Week happens, it's almost impossible to find um it's really impossible to find hotels or Airbnbs for a good price if you book it late, especially during Women's Fashion Week. Like, during Women's Fashion Week, it feels like there's nowhere to walk. So I can't imagine the Olympic. Like, the Olympics, there's not going to be anything available. No hotels, no Airbnbs. Like, no, like, it's just going to be chaos. So I don't. That's why even if I was going to go for an Olympic event, I wouldn't stay in Paris. I would go there for the day and then return to London after. Yeah, everything is very much marketing. Very much marketing. So they play like shit until the finals, and then they play catch up if they make it through. Feel like there's tasteful, meaningful marketing, and then there's try hard marketing. I mean, you shouldn't expect tasteful and meaningful marketing from LVMH, which is a company that is turning luxury brands into fast fashion. I mean, that's definitely not what you should expect from such a company and such a brand. He said I can't even spell Beluti. I put it in the chat. Beluti. They should have hired the marketing at Marc Jacobs. That was yeah, but it's too that marketing is too edgy for LVMH. LVMH is like McDonald's. LVMH want everything to be the most like run of the mill, easy to understand, basic kind of marketing campaigns. Um, so yeah, that's LVMH want to do things as commercial as possible. Someone's literally going to quote that LVMH is like McDonald's. Oh god. You want to use as Baluti, such a hideous word. That was his name. It's Italian, no? Baluti is Italian, right? Um, like the person that made Baluti is Italian. He was like an Italian shoemaker, if I'm remembering correctly. But obviously set up his company in Paris. Baluti does sound like a swear word. Oh gosh. Yeah, you and you, that's someone's name that you're saying sounds hideous. Oh gosh, that's funny. Let me see if my video has finished processing. This video is still processing. Yeah, I think I might have to leave it for another day, guys, because YouTube processing takes 10 years, mate. It's the second place medal, silver tone brass. Who knows? I have no idea. But yeah, on that note, guys, it was great talking about Dior. I might have to clip out the $57 Dior bag sold for 2,800 bit of the stream because I need to shorten it because there's certain people that I'll see and be like, oh my god, 3 hours, I'm not gonna watch that. So I'll have to do that. I'll probably do that shortly. But thank you very much. Can't even speak. I've been talking for 3 hours straight. But thank you very much for tuning in. I definitely appreciate it all the time. Stay tuned for Sunday stream, I guess. So yeah, that would be cool. We're going to be streaming on Sunday, hopefully, and yeah, that's the vibe. It's so funny. I did like my little, oh, we're going to be streaming on Sunday, like outro, and then I pressed end stream and it's not working. So basically, I'm forced to stream longer until this start. Let me refresh my page 1 second, and I'll end the stream. Like, how dare you want to end the stream? We're going to freeze your web page. That's funny. Okay, now it's working. Okay. Okay, I'll see you guys later.